Recording in progress.
Oops. Welcome everybody to our meeting. I'd like to start with information about how to make public comment. You can comment on items not on the agenda during our public comment section. And if you're in our live audience, we have cards on the table that can be turned into the table. And if you're part of our Zoom audience, you can raise your Zoom hand. You can also comment on items that are on the agenda as well. I'm going to start by reading a news release that was just approved. It was written with Dr. Darnice Williams, as well as with the board. It was a mutual news release, and so I'm going to read it to you all now. The topic is Dr. Denise Williams, after leading the high school district through the pandemic recovery, decides to move on. District thanks her for her service. Sequoia Union High School District and Superintendent Dr. Darnice Williams have mutually agreed to part ways. Today, the board announced that the parties entered into an amicable agreement. The board and Superintendent Williams have reached an arrangement. As board members, we thank Superintendent Williams for her grace, dedication, and leadership during this unprecedented time. We worked together during labor negotiations with the result of a multi-year contract, reaching the long-standing effort of transitioning health benefits that resulted in an ongoing savings to the district, reopening of schools, and advancing educational outcomes and equitable access for all students. We could not have done it without her. Dubois continued. Under Superintendent Williams' stewardship, Sequoia became a statewide leader in equity awareness, as well as being recognized as an exemplary district acknowledged by Pivot Learning District Ready Index. Dr. Williams met difficult issues head-on, engaging in productive conversations and training about the manifestations of systemic racism in public schools and implicit bias. As a board, we were proud to stand side by side with Superintendent Williams to raise community awareness, stated Vice President Richard Ginn. School safety and security was another focus of Dr. Williams' administration. The district created and introduced a COVID-19 dashboard and an automated informed K-12 incident reporting system. Also, the district passed Measure W, a $591.5 million bond used to improve security systems and remove hazardous materials from district campuses. Our students must be safe to learn, Dr. Williams humbly offered. I believe we met our many challenges by remaining focused on students and in ensuring the continuity of teaching and learning, stated Dr. Williams. I would like to express my most heartfelt appreciation to the staff, board, and community for supporting our programs, services, and initiatives during my time in Sequoia. As a champion of post-secondary opportunities for all students, Dr. Williams spearheaded the College Promise Initiative in partnership with Kenyatta College's president, Kim Lopez, to provide expanded opportunities for students and families to achieve the goal of civic, instructional, and career post-secondary opportunities. The collaboration was extended to include Ravenswood City Schools, Kenyatta College, San Francisco State University, and East Bay, and Cal State University East Bay. Dr. Williams, with over 28 years of service in public education, was hired by the Board of Education in 2021. She earned a doctorate in educational leadership from the University of Southern California and the Master's of Arts in Educational Administration from California State University, Dominguez Hills. Dr. Williams' leadership has been recognized at the local, regional, and state levels for her focus on disrupting educational inequities. And that's the end of the statement. It just went out to the press. So next item I guess I forgot call to order,
Roll call.
and I forgot roll call. So we'll go ahead and do roll call now.
Student trustee Rodriguez Velasquez,
Here.
student trustee Swaminathan,
Here.
trustee Stevenson,
Here.
trustee Nori,
Here.
trustee Ku,
Here.
vice president Ginn,
Here.
president Dubois.
Here.
We have a quorum.
So we're not now on item 4. It's the annual organizational meeting where we will elect the officers for the board. And I think that goes after. Yeah, it goes after. Yeah, there will be public comment. Yeah, I think, is that correct? Am I doing this right? I'm swearing in first. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we will do the swearing in next. This is just ceremonial for those of you that don't watch public meetings all the time. When our new board members were candidates, they actually took the oath of office. They took it a second time before a meeting on Friday. So this is the third time we're doing this for the family. So this is more ceremonial. Amy's kids are here and we welcome them. And her husband is here. And Suffolk's family is here. There they are. Okay. So this is for the family. And we also have cake and we have fruit. So I'm going to swear you guys in. Okay, Suffolk first. First time I've ever done this. Hi, Suffolk. I, Suffolk Nori,
I, Suffolk Nori,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution
and allegiance to the Constitution
of the United States and State of California,
of the United States and the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter,
upon which I'm about to enter,
and during such time as I hold the office of school trustee, school board member.
and at such time as which I hold the office of school board member.
Basically, in the high school district, I guess, but on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then Amy's husband is going to ceremonially swear her in.
I, Amy Koo,
I, Amy Koo,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the state of California,
and the state of California,
and that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about
the duties about which
the duties upon which I am about to enter, and during such time
that I'm about to enter, and during such time
as I hold the office of Sequoia Union High School District Board Member,
that I hold the office of Sequoia Union High School District Board Member. And that's it, right?
After rotation. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And I want to just welcome our two new board members who are awesome. This is now the first time Sequoia Union High School District has had a minority board that looks like our district. We are thrilled to have you both. I've known Amy for a while. I met her as a delegate for the California School Boards Association. We've worked together at the San Mateo County School Boards Association. She gets involved broadly. And Suffolk, I've gotten to know you as a student trustee and more recently as a candidate. So we welcome you both. Do you guys have anything you would like to say?
Love to say some stuff. Should I get up there so it's easier?
Whatever you're comfortable.
Yeah, I'm very honored to be a trustee with the Sequoia Union High School District Board. And I really couldn't have gotten here without the community's support. And I really want to call out in particular my family who's here tonight, because being a school board member is a huge time commitment. And I know that my kids, Alex and Michael, they probably don't remember a time that I wasn't a working mother who happened to be a school board member. So, because I've been a school board member for 9 years with Belmont Redwood Shores. So when they were eensy weensy, tiny people, they're growing so big now. They actually helped out a little bit with my events and assembling yard signs, even joined me with some door knocking. So I really appreciate that. They're getting civically engaged. And really kudos to my husband. I'm so grateful that he was able to do the swearing in ceremony today, because, you know, I can't do anything that I do without him being the stronghold at home and really holding down the home front. And beyond that, he's also a great person, and we have amazing conversations at home. He's my thought partner, and I have a ton to learn from him through his social work activities. And really, he's also been very influential in my campaign, and is extremely proud of his yard sign placement strategy. So he's very excited about that. So why do I care about education so much? And it's really based on my North Star. So I really feel that every child can be successful if we can figure out what their strengths are, what they're passionate about, and find ways to tap into that in order to make learning engaging and relevant to them, and to support them in a safe and inclusive environment. And really, you know, children are our future. So if we don't do this well, our society may be on shaky ground, and we really need to make sure all children are doing well. And my kids will do well when everyone does well. Some of you may not know that I grew up in San Francisco and went to Lowell High School. And I remember being so excited as a freshman. I went there wanting to learn world civilization. And I said, finally, I'll learn about my roots. And then the first day of class, the teacher announced to the classroom as he was going over the course outline and said, time is limited. We're not going to have time to cover every chapter in this book. And so we're just going to focus on Western Europe. And I was so disappointed. And with just that one statement on the first day of school, I felt like almost 60% of our high school was relegated to non-existence. And that just was such a pivotal moment. I never forget that because I cared so much that I read all the chapters on my own about Asia, and I even minored in East Asian studies when I went to college because I was so upset and angry. But it reminds us that, curriculum has to be inclusive and it has to reflect the students in the classroom so that they find it relevant and can engage with it. And when that happens, then it builds this sense of belonging. And without that sense of belonging, it's hard for students to do well in school. And also the teacher sets the tone. So whether or not the teacher intentionally made students feel kind of sidelined or unwelcomed, they do set the tone, and it's very important that they have the professional development and the space to figure out what curriculum is the right curriculum to focus on. So I really look forward to collaborating with all the stakeholders in our community to make sure that we're fostering that safe and inclusive learning environment for our children. Because only then will every child reach their potential and be successful. And I know that there's been a lot of concern in the community about trust and transparency. So really my first priorities as a trustee is not just to onboard and drink from a fire hose and learn everything there is to learn about Sequoia Union High School District, but it's really to ensure that we have a strong governance team. But because we're role models, just like teachers are role models for our children. As a governance team, as a school board, we're setting the direction and vision of the school district. And people are watching us, we're role models, and we need to work together as a cohesive team and build the trusting relationship and repair, help make sure that the community is feeling good about what we're doing and bringing everyone along. So that's really my focus in the near term, is making sure that our governance team is strong, and I look forward to getting going. Thank you.
Sophic.
So like Amy, I would also like to thank all my supporters. Firstly, my parents and my brother, who without them, none of this could have ever been happened. I actually remember the first time I told my parents I wanted to do this, and I think they thought I was joking or something. But since then, I couldn't have asked for a more supportive family, more supportive supporters who, really believed in me. When I first told people I wanted to run, I thought they'd think I was crazy, or that, someone, a more traditional school board candidate should do it. But the reason I ran really was because I think I really saw in my 4 years at MA how crucial those years are in really shaping students' lives, and that the decisions and stimulus and educational stimulus that these students receive can really be the difference between what makes a student have a successful post-secondary life after high school and what doesn't. And fundamentally, I really wanted to run because I had a great experience at MA, and I know that a lot of my friends and peers had a great experience at MA, but I also know that there are a lot of students in the district that come out after 4 years and don't have such a great experience. So I really want to make sure that everyone throughout the district, no matter what middle school school they went to, no matter what their socioeconomic situation is like, no matter what their family situation is, home is, can have a really great 4 years that can allow them to have academically rigorous classes, have fun in high school, and succeed in anything, no matter what their post-secondary option of their choice is. So I'd like to thank everyone for believing in me, especially my supporters, and I'm really excited for these next 4 years. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We do have some public comments, I think. So again, a reminder that if you have a public comment right now, it would be on the swearing in of new board members. If you have a public comment on other items, put your hand down. We're going to have a public comment section later on in the agenda. So I have a comment card from someone in the audience, Abby Corman.
Hi, my name is Abby Corman. I'm a teacher at Menlo Atherton. I was here on Monday. I'm not clear what part of the board agenda this swearing in was supposed to fill tonight. That's not officially what the agenda says. This was not listed on today's agenda. I thought this swearing in was rushed through during Friday's closed special session 2 p.m. meeting. Thought that's when the swearing in actually happened. I thought your earlier swearing in was how you were able to hire a new lawyer for thousands of taxpayer dollars and review the evaluation that had already been done twice. Who was this swearing in for tonight? How tasteless to have cake on the day our superintendent has been pushed out by you. I agree with you, Trustee Koo. You are role models. I want to know what you think you're modeling for us this past week. What is the district vision and goals? I thought I knew what our board stood for from our board governance goals that I read and agreed with up until last week. But your actions in this 1 week have me questioning them. I wish this board would have made those visions clear through having their own study sessions earlier and had thought through what their actions, not just their words, showed our community. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple more hands up in the Zoom audience. Balin. Balin, did you have a comment on this part of the agenda? Nope. Okay, moving on. Caroline Coleman.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll be brief, I promise. Two things I just wanted to share. I think it would be really helpful to offer a couple of interpreter access speakers so that if our other BIPOC community needs to hear these messages, that it's in a language that that is most comfortable to them. As a former parent of McKinley School, my hope is that besides the rigor and the toughness of academia for our students, that we focus and emphasize the wellness of the whole student instead of rigor. I didn't hear anyone talking about that. It really, really concerns me because our students are struggling. They are crying. They are not coming to school because they're not feeling it. And many of them have had to take mental health days. There's a wait list for 1.5 years to get evaluated for mental health services, for 504 plans, and every student needs mental health. And I really hope that that's more important than getting an A or getting into a great college, because it's just really important. I think about the students and what our students deserve, what they deserve every day, and that is compassion, to be seen, to be loved, to be embraced. Even if you don't know them, you see them in the hallway and they've got their head down, you say, hey, what are you doing today? You look like you're not feeling it. Can we talk about it? Oh, I got to go to class. You know what? Let's take care of you first. Did you eat today? Would you like some water? Those simple connections need to be done every day with everyone before you even talk about getting fabulous grades and getting into the greatest college. Please talk more about mental health. It's a crisis. And I will not retire until I see this legacy lived at our district, regardless of what's going on. Thank you, and I yield my 3 seconds.
Thank you. Eva Tang?
Thank you, President. Just wanted to give a warm welcome to Trustee Nori and to Trustee Koo. Welcome to the board, although you did have a very rushed swearing in on Friday. So I'm glad we're taking this time to hold such ceremonies and so that you can eat cake tonight. I just really want to emphasize the words that you've said tonight, Trustee Koo. You ran on transparency and you did address that tonight. And I really, really hope that we can take you at your word, because right now we are not feeling so great about that. And Trustee Nori, and I know that you understand that there are students that have a different experience than you do. And as student trustee, your words to support reopening led to negative health outcomes for my students in East Palo Alto. So I will remember that throughout your term. Either way, welcome. I hope that you will remember the beginning of this term and how we're feeling right now. And I hope that you can rebuild the trust that we need from you, or the trust that we need in you, because right now we're not feeling it. But welcome. I hope that you have a wonderful 4 years, and I'm looking forward to working with you. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Chris Beatley Hagler?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I'm Chris B. the Hagler. I'm a teacher, a constituent. Yeah, pretty concerned and confused right now. Looking at the, agenda, I saw election of officers 4.1. So I'm curious about that, right? My tax dollars are going to this board. It's paying for the salary of a lot of employees here, and including myself, right? So I'm very invested in this. And so Ms. Koo, I'm really happy that you mentioned the concern about trust and transparency. So I have a question. I'm not sure if protocols allow y'all to address this, but will you be electing president and vice president today? Can the board speak to how these elections have gone in the past? Because this seems like a very tenuous moment to be doing these elections, and so I'm concerned about the backdrop of these elections. And again, just curious if those will be taking place tonight or not. So hopefully y'all can speak to that. So that's all I had to share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we will be doing elections. The election of officers is on the agenda. Okay, thank you for the comments. And I think we will take just a short break and then come back to the agenda. So we will do 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay. I'll split it in the middle. We'll do 8 minutes in case some people want to get going. Okay, so we will continue on with our meeting. So we are on item 4, the annual organizational meeting. Can't hear me? Okay. Right. So we're now on item, let me make sure we're live again. Are we live? So we are now on item 4 of our agenda, the annual organization meeting. So the first item is item 5.2. Nominations are open for president of the Board of Trustees.
I nominate Rich Ginn.
Rich again. Thank you, Shawnees. Thank you, Safik. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Congratulations, Rich. I guess I turn it over to you now,
Thank you, Carrie.
and you can continue.
All right, thank you.
I am so. It's all yours. Huh? The bottom part too. You can have the bottom part too. There.
All right, thank you, Carrie, and thank you for your year of service that just ended. Now, the next item is to nominate a vice president / clerk of the Board of Trustees, and it'd be my pleasure to nominate Shawnee Stevenson.
And I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Shawnees.
Okay, the next is to nominate a representative to the San Mateo County Committee on School District Organization. Not even sure who the current one is.
It was me.
You want to say
You wanna
anything
stay
about
on it?
what it's about?
I just went to like 2 meetings when they did reorganization of the county. I think it has to do with voting and so that's kind of what I did. It wasn't a heavy lift, but they do need representation.
And did you want to stay on it or you want to pass it on to someone else?
It's okay if someone else wants to do.
Oh, okay. Is there somebody that would like to do it?
Interested in this at all?
Amy will do it?
I nominate Amy Koo to serve as the representative for to the San Mateo County Committee on School District Organization.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have the board. Actually, before we move on from 4.1, I'll just say that the governance handbook is attached, and we'll be referring to this a little later in the agenda, but it's attached here in this section. The next item is 4.2. The board committee participations. Laura, do we have any comment? Does anybody want to make a comment about board committee participations?
I do not have any comment cards.
Okay,
There was an email that was written to us just for people to know, the sustainability committee, that a student requested a board member to be on there. I didn't ask for approval from the whole board, but they had sent an email requesting that a board member sits on the sustainability committee.
okay, great. And we have a draft board committee participation with last year's names on it, which I think everyone has in front. Amy, do you have a copy of it too? Yep. So there is a line for sustainability committee on there, which we could choose to fill, should we choose to fill it. I guess I'll ask for discussion first. If you see a process for filling this, you want to just go from top to bottom or have people select and kind of
Do
pick,
we
or if
still
you
need to confirm that it was a request from the public, from a student, that we have someone, so I'm not for sure if we need to vote on that it become a committee of ours, or what's the process?
I think if we have someone interested to serve, we can have them serve.
Oh, because of the resolution, it's fine to have it as a committee. Okay, thank you. I was just clarifying.
So I guess first we'll just discuss if any of you see a process for how we fill this. We could just have people select their top choices one at a time. We could just kind of talk through them all and then cycle back through and fill them.
Yeah,
I'm open to any thoughts.
I mean, I'd be interested in understanding, which committees are truly active and which ones. Because before we start assigning, it would make sense if there's committees that are not active or not a priority anymore, that we remove them from the list. But I don't know which ones are active or
Yeah.
inactive. and some
Okay,
background.
what we could do then is maybe we'll go through and for those of us who are on each committee, we can comment about how that committee was in the last year and maybe what our expectations year. We'll just go through and talk about each
Yeah.
one before we put names on them.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so just at the top, the benefits committee was Chris Thompson and me for the last year. We would meet maybe once every month or two this year, but it was probably a more heavy year this year because we were switching benefits providers. And I'm going to look over at Crystal and say, is it going to be maybe a meeting a quarter going forward, or is it going to be more than that, do you think? The benefits. Okay, and that was,
Is that different than like an HR committee, or I'm looking at Todd? I don't know if we have, I know we talk about benefits all the time, but wondering if there's an HR committee where we give input around HR issues and things of that sort related to benefits.
to my understanding, we currently have no such committee. It was just specific because there were some changes going on with the benefits. That was a shared interest between the board, the district, and the unions, that we had a group with representation of all those, from members of all those that would meet.
Okay.
And so the board had representatives for that.
Okay.
And there isn't a similar type HR thing
Okay.
currently. And I would say that if we felt a need to create a new committee during the year, we
can.
can.
Okay, great.
And we
Thank
could
you.
change who's in it. But there's a requirement. I guess someone asked a question earlier about reorganization. There's a requirement for the board to do a reorganization in a window of time in December that is something like between December 9 and December 23. So there's a requirement that we do have this reorganization meeting, but we can't, there's no prohibition from
Or
creating a
starting
committee.
If we decide later on.
Correct.
Okay.
So board policy committee, Alan was the lead on this. I was the alternate, what was never called. So I know, Alan, since you're here, if you want to comment how often you had to do something.
I actually don't believe there were any meetings of the policy committee while I was on it. So
Is it a requirement to have one as part of our, because since we have so many policies that we need to review?
yes, I mean, it's been a long-standing effort to be reviewing the policies, and two board members are
Mhm.
supposed to be part of that effort.
And does that policy also include HR? Or is that a separate?
All
tab?
policies.
All policies. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The next one is the BRSSD 2x2s. Carrie, do you want to comment on your frequency?
Your microphone.
We meet about, correct me, Ellen, if I'm wrong, about 4 or 5 times a year. It's an hour-long meeting.
Okay, thank you. Budget committee was Chris and me, and we would meet probably 4 times a year, 3 or 4 times a year, to pre-review reports coming to the board about budget, to see that the presentation met what the board was expecting. The next is one we've already filled with Amy. Digital Wellness Committee, Carrie.
I don't believe it's any longer meeting. Is that correct, Ellen?
Is that different than, is that under Liz Chacon?
No, it was under Jack West of Sequoia. So it's no longer meeting. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe the work that it was scheduled to do has been completed.
So we can remove that.
Janice, you're on the Equity and Diversity Council. Is that the one that they said meets 4 times a year?
I'm looking at Taja. We're going to be moving our meetings to once a quarter, correct? For 3 hours for like retreats to go more in depth versus wide. So it is 3 times, 4 times a year.
I would be interested in that, but do you want to defer to newer board members?
Yeah, we'll pick people after.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm so anxious for that.
That's okay.
Sorry.
The next is the District English Learner Advisory Committee, the DLAC. Shawnee's.
Well, that was a committee that wasn't a committee. So I'm looking at Ms. Hanson to help me understand, is that a committee?
It is not a committee. The DLAC is a committee. And
Yes.
so there would usually be a board representative who
At
participated in
DLAC.
DLAC. Yes. But the committee that was once the EL committee was while we were updating the English master plan, EL master plan,
Okay, so it's the DLAC committee, and how often do the DLAC?
once a month.
Once a month?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, the next two, I'm on the Menlo Park 2x2 and the Menlo Park 2x2x2, and I believe that we met 0 times in the
We
last
met
year.
0 times. However, I was at CSBA conference a week and a half ago, and they want to meet.
So I think my recommendation would be to put the 2x2 and the 2x2x2 together,
Yes.
and it'd be the same people for both, for Menlo Park, unless there's a reason to split it. And I would say the same for Ravenswood. Did Ravenswood meet at all in the last year?
We met one time, but they're interested in meeting more often. They want a separate meeting with the 2x2 and the 2x2x2 because, you know, they want to have more school district focus and then things that cross over into the community.
Okay, great.
So it can be the same people, but I would say there really are 2 different functions. Okay.
Sure. And I'd say, so the Redwood City, that one, I say we met maybe once a quarter about, between the Redwood City School District and the city of Redwood City. The Redwood City Together is a collaborative that the district's part of. For Suffolk and Amy, you may not know about that one. So Redwood City Together is a coalition formed between, I may not get all of the entities, but it's the 2 school districts, the city of Redwood City, the Sequoia Healthcare District, the county. Stanford participates with their research center. Facebook is a sponsor, and it's
The collaborative.
a
looking
collaborative
at-
effort.
looking at outcomes for healthy outcomes for the city as well as our kids.
It
And
can
I'd
be
say
a
that
bigger,
group
it
meets-
can be a bigger commitment, I think.
They have various subgroups. So there's at a minimum, if the people who are on this would go to the what's called the leadership committee meetings, which are maybe once a quarter maybe once every 4 months. And then there's executive, which are there's a group of electeds there. And then there's a group of the city manager is in it, and then city council's in it. The superintendent or designee is in it, and school boards are in it. So there's in 2 different groups of leaders, and sometimes everyone's together, and sometimes it's one group, and sometimes it's the other group. And then they have various initiatives that you could choose to participate, whether or not you were signed up to be part of this. If anybody who was interested could participate in the various initiatives. I don't care. You want to name some of them?
Yeah, so I'm on the welcoming Redwood City. So it's definitely much more hands-on where you actually lead, if you attend the subcommittees, you leave with stuff to do. So like the OAA conference, I really enjoy it. I put on some events in Redwood City to help do community building. So things like that. Also, every 4 or 5 years, Sequoia Union High School District needs to actually lead the meetings themselves. So that's why it's a bigger commitment than some of these other things.
Okay, the next one is the SEL Task Force, Carrie.
That
We should ask.
is
Dr.
in
Jerome.
process right now. Oh,
Yes, that is actually now called the MTSS committee that Shayna sent out invites about. It's probably, I would say it's going to meet 4 times this year, although some of that depends what's coming through the pipeline for what's been developed through with counselors and hatchings as far as referrals, et cetera. So that's what that is, but it's now instead of SEL Task Force, the MTSS committee.
And
A
there's
bigger commitment because the meetings are like 4 or 5 hours, right?
No, they're not that long anymore. No,
Okay.
they're down to 2 hours for the
Okay.
meetings, about 4 times a year. Yes.
That was very difficult.
Yes,
just
I
wanna-
knew we had taken the feedback on the SEL task force, and that's why it was dissolved and recalibrated for MTSS work.
And Dr. Chacon, the Wellness Committee, is that a different committee? Or are you folding that in?
That is different. Those are.
That
that's
is different.
2
Okay.
different, yeah. So I can talk about that when we come to that.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
The next is sustainability that you mentioned, Shanice. Do you want to say a few words about?
I'm actually on it,
Oh,
right?
He's on it. Yep. Is that the one that?
Yeah, Ellen and I have been on it.
Okay, what's
I've
on the
enjoyed it. That's the one that's student led. They meet once a month for an hour. There's also subcommittees. So could be a little bit more work. I've enjoyed it because the students are so inspirational, but if some of the newer trustees want to do it, I can also back away.
And I believe the students sent us, I'm not for sure if the same, I just want to make sure because there was a couple of sustainability committee. It was Daisy Young. Do you know her? She's a student, science instructional coach in our district professional development department.
Yes.
I'm looking at
Sophia.
Crystal because I was like, is this the same? I know there was a couple of sustainability committees. So I just want to make sure we're on the right sustainability committee.
Yeah, this is the one we're talking about the one that's
So
district.
This is what the person says, supporting the efforts of a student-run sustainability committee.
And teachers as well.
Okay, I just want to make sure because there's a couple of sustainability committees.
This is the one.
The student-ran sustainability committee is the one that we want to
This
be
is
on.
the one we want to be on. 'Cause
Okay,
we
just
weren't
wanna
really
make
on the
sure.
county one unless Alan was and I didn't know. We weren't on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to make sure.
And its expectation is about 1 hour per month.
Yes. But there's also subcommittee work.
Mhm.
Shawnice, you can just keep going.
The wellness committee,
Yes, so this is also separate from the MTSS. We have the Wellness Advisory Committee. That has not met yet this semester because we just got Celeste Lukerich has now taken Javier's place as our mental health and wellness coordinator. And so she is working with Jessica Colvin, the contractor from Swell Schools, to develop a plan for that committee to meet. But yes, it will be meeting. It will be meeting as the Wellness Advisory Committee.
is she a temporary staff?
Celeste is, yeah, Javier is on leave of absence
Oh,
this
okay,
year, so
okay.
she's filling
So
in
she's
for
covering
him
his-
while he's on leave.
Okay. Thank you. Then the workforce housing, this is the one I kept bringing back every meeting because I was the committee. You were the committee.
How'd you do there?
Did you have some meetings?
We met, we talked, we went to conferences, we talked at the meetings. We did a great job. Thanks, Alan, for being here.
Darver, is that in addition to the county meeting? That's the
It was.
that's the county
It was
meeting, correct?
primarily joining in the county meetings as to keep Sequoia in the conversation.
Yes, so there's an overall county workforce housing
Oh, I was
committee.
never invited to
They
that.
haven't had any meetings.
Oh,
They've had-
okay.
I think I don't think they've had one.
Okay.
Since then, and I don't think we had anybody on that. I think it was just before your time.
Okay.
So, we should choose board members I sit also on that committee as staff. And we'll make sure we go when they start up again.
So it could be something, a lot, or a little.
I would say it's a little.
Mhm. No specified schedule.
Okay,
Maybe once
and I
a
guess I'll
quarter.
just ask, I think the answer is no, but are there any other committees not listed that anybody thinks we should have?
Mm,
We can revisit later, but just thought I'd ask since we're doing it now.
yeah.
So I'm open to discussion on this, but I'd propose that we let our new trustees select if they have a top choice, that we let them pick unless others see a different,
I agree.
and then
You
the
agree?
rest.
Mhm.
So
I'd like to be on both the Menlo Park ones.
And so would I.
I'd be interested in being on the BRSSD Sequoia one, as well as the Redwood City 2x2x2.
The 3 2x2x2 or 2x2?
Well, I guess for Redwood City, there's no 2x2 and 2x2x2. There's just a single 2x2x2.
correct, it's correct, because we would see them at the,
Okay.
we crossed over at the 222 and at the Redwood City together, because there's also,
Those are two separate things
they're
or?
totally separate things, but there's a lot of, all the people on the 2x2x2 are also on Redwood City together, but Redwood City together includes a lot of other people.
Okay, so you want to do the 2x2?
Yeah, I don't know that I have the bandwidth to do Redwood City together as a new trustee, because I think I
Okay.
want to dedicate time to onboarding.
Okay. Carrie or Shanice, do you guys want to have a top one that you want to stay on or pick?
I can do the 2x2 with Amy for Redwood City. I don't think I can do Redwood City together.
I'm happy to stay on Redwood City together.
You're gonna stay there?
I'm happy to.
Please do. I'm
Someone want to
sorry.
join me?
Anybody else agree? I guess I should ask.
Okay. Speak up if you guys, I think we're just kind of free for alling at this point. Want to make sure you got your first pick. Carrie, which ones do you feel strongly
So-
about that you'd like to be
So this
part
is
of?
from the whole list, right? So
Anywhere you want to go.
I
Yeah.
feel strongest about Redwood City together. I love that.
So it's still you and me then, I think. No one else.
And Wellness Committee.
Also, I'm happy to take over for Chris from the budget committee.
And I think for me, I would like to do the policy committee. And I would like to continue as Taja will still have me, her and Pablo to be on the EDC. Does that feel comfortable to you? Okay. And the DLAC committee. Since there's no ELAC committee or whatever it was.
Okay. Carrie, any others you want to?
I'm interested in the equity and diversity, but again, I like what Shani said, if that's what the committee wants, so.
Amy or Sophic, are you good if Shanice and Carrie are the EDC?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm fine with that. I'd be interested in the DLAC committee.
Okay. So that's Shanice and Amy. So maybe we just start at the top. I'm happy to stay on benefits. Does anyone care
I
to
can do that
join?
too. Yeah, I can do that. too.
Anybody else care to join? It's okay, so me and Sophic.
I guess I could stay on Belmont River Shores unless somebody else wants it, since my area.
Okay. And does anybody want to be the backup for board policy? I think Alan said it wasn't a very heavy lift last year and I was never called as the backup. And I'm happy to continue serving as backup. If someone else would like to be, it's fine. Okay, I'll be backup. I'm happy to stay on budget with Sophic now instead of Chris, but if someone else wants to be on budget,
Amy, did you want to be on budget?
I mean, it would be a good way to learn the
Mhm.
budget too, and deep dive into it.
you want to do that?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
You'd be good at budget.
Okay. The next one, we've picked Amy already for County Community School District Organization. Digital Wellness Committee, we have struck. EDC is Shanice and Carrie. DLAC is Shanice and Amy. The two Menlo Parks are Sophic and Shanice. The Ravenwood, we have a 2x2 and a 2x2, which I think we should probably be the same people unless there's a reason to split it.
We should have the same people for continuity.
That's okay. So we're gonna merge those two together.
Were those already filled or no?
No, Ravenswood, no one has.
I would be interested in that. Unless you guys want to be,
Topic, you can.
it's fine.
So the two Ravenswood ones will be Shanice and Carrie.
And I wouldn't want to do the, Dr. Chacon, if it feels comfortable to you, MTSS. It's an exciting committee. I'm glad you're starting it.
Anybody else?
I think so. I've been having trouble, though. I think, Liz, is there a regular time for that meeting? I think I've been having trouble making. Yeah. Okay.
I'll have Shayna send invites to both of you. There are times laid out, although like I said, that may shift because we're waiting for some work to come forward that can be reviewed by the committee. And so we're trying to time it out with the work that's being done with hatching the results.
Yeah, I'd be happy to be on it.
Okay.
I hope
Okay.
I can make the times.
Okay.
And if not, I can.
Shanice and Carrie, sustainability. Guys, were you interested in that one? You brought it up or you just brought it up?
I brought it up because it was a request
Are you
as part
interested
of
in
our MOU.
Amy Sophic, Sustainability Committee?
Safik, do you think you
Sure.
would be interested?
Yeah, I'll be happy to do it.
Did somebody else want to do it or should I?
Is it 2 people or 1 person for that one? 2?
Did somebody else want to be on it?
And I'm looking at the next meeting. It is on Tuesday, January 17th, 7 PM on Zoom.
Do you want to do it?
No,
Okay, I'll do it then.
Okay, wellness, it's currently Carrie. Anybody else want to do wellness? Oh, Shanice, are you on wellness again?
no, I think MTSS is enough.
Okay,
I'll do it.
you're already on it. Carrie's on it. Sophic or Amy? If not, I can do it if you don't want.
Because it hasn't met yet. So
Correct.
once it starts meeting, what's the?
If it starts meeting, I would say maybe 4 times a year. But it wasn't this semester because we were still starting off with our new temporary mental health and wellness coordinator.
I'd be interested in that committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Workforce Housing Committee, do you think we should continue having that committee?
Well, as a committee of 1, it wasn't that difficult.
You want to keep being the committee?
I can meet with myself. I love me.
I'm happy to do it too.
So now we got a committee of 2.
Okay. So, Crystal or Bonnie, while I share these notes with you, one of the 2 of you, is tracking, so Laura, who's, you've got it? Okay, great. I believe that concludes our reorganization. Is there anything else that we need to reorganize? Okay, so now we move on to approval of the agenda. Do we have any comments from the public about the agenda?
Yes, I do have a comment card from Greg Grzinski from SDTA I'm sorry, this is for the consent. I'll wait.
Okay, this is just about the agenda itself. Does any board member have any comment about the agenda? Okay, do you have a motion to approve the agenda?
Give a motion to approve the agenda.
And I'll second.
I gave it and then Amy gave the motion, right? I gave the motion. She did the second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the agenda? Aye. Okay, next is the consent agenda. Do we have any comments about the consent agenda?
We do have 1 comment card from Greg Grzinski from SCTA. It's on item 6.4, 6.5, and 6.6.
6.5, 6.4.
6.4, 6.5, and 6.6.
Hello to the board. My name is Greg Grzinski. I am the bargaining chair of the Sequoia District Teachers Association. I wanted to just make a couple comments about item 6.4, 6.5, and 6.6 on the consent agenda. And that all of these items have to do with approving new contracts for different school psychologists or marriage and family therapists. Now, the school psychologists are in our bargaining unit, and I think we are, as SDTA, we are very happy that the board is seeing fit to put some resources into assisting our school psychologists. We've spent a lot of time trying to give information to the board to let you know about exactly how difficult it is, the job of the school psychologist, and how hard it is for our district to retain school psychologists. So we're not opposed to these items per se, but I want to bring up the process of this happening, that that these items were put on the board consent agenda without the SDTA ever being, without ever consulting with SDTA. Since more recently, we have received some information from Ilya von Lahr explaining where this money is going and what it's for. But at the time it was placed on the board agenda, there was absolutely no clarity about these items. And simply put, that if money is going to be paid to contract out with private companies and be put on the school board, we expect as a process and transparency that SDTA be informed of why that this is the process to contract out with private companies as opposed to simply hiring within our bargaining unit. So this is our concern. The concern is about process and communication. And we hope that in the future that hires like this happen through the regular process of hiring into our bargaining unit. Thank you.
Am I allowed to ask a clarifying question on a comment since it was on an item on here? I just want to make sure I understand what he was saying. Is that proper?
I believe if we want to discuss, we have to pull them. So we can pull, so I guess we have no other comments. So if you want to talk about it, you can pull them and then we can talk about them.
Okay. I just have questions for him. So
Would anyone like to pull any items from the consent agenda?
yes, I just want to ask him a couple more questions for clarification.
Would
So
you
yes,
say,
I'd like to
was there one
pull-
particular one that,
I mean, I could do 6.4, 6.5, and I think he had questions around 6.6. Is that correct?
you want to pull just one of them to ask your question?
Yeah, we can just do one of them.
Which one would you like to pull?
6.4, let's do that.
Okay,
one.
6.4 is pulled. Okay, so we're just going to act on the rest of the consent agenda, then move back to the ones, but you can wait. It should be pretty quick. So we act on the consent agenda in one motion that approves everything. Currently, the consent agenda is everything here except for item 6.4. This is approved by a roll call vote. We've already taken comment and pulled one item. So this time I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda absent item 6.4.
I move to approve the consent agenda, not including item 6.4.
And I'll second that.
A roll call vote, please.
Student trustee Rodriguez Velasquez,
Yes.
student trustee Swaminathan, trustee Stevenson,
Yes.
trustee Nori,
Yes.
trustee Ku,
Yes.
I'm
Trustee
sorry,
Dubois.
trustee Dubois,
Yes.
vice president Stevenson.
Yes.
Did I say that? President Ginn.
Yes. Okay, now we'll move to item 6.4, and we have a question from trustee Stevenson.
What is your name again? I apologize.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Greg Grzinski.
Okay, Greg, I wasn't quite understanding some of the information that you were sharing. You were saying you're not opposing to the actual positions, but the process, correct?
That's
And
correct.
what the process is, you're saying that the process should go through STDA? I wasn't quite understanding. I apologize.
Well, as the exclusive bargaining agent of all of the certificated staff of the district, that when work is going to be contracted out, so it's not in our bargaining unit, although school psychologists are in fact in our bargaining unit, it is our belief that yes, we should be consulted.
Okay. And so I'm looking at Ms. Hanson. Can you help me to understand what the typical process is? I know this has to do with special education.
It does.
Sounds like.
It does.
So I'm trying to understand, not necessarily a question as if something's wrong, but just
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
understand.
It's no problem for us to make sure that we consult every time with SDTA about it. on this particular issue. It's been a revolving door with all of the extra psychologists that we have been trying to hire to cover our increased need. We've had a perpetual posting for psychologists. We would love to fill them with teachers from or members for our own bargaining unit. But point is taken that every time we do it, we should run it by SDTA first. And so we'll make sure that we do so.
Okay. And then I think there was a
Sorry,
last,
and just a small pitch for the possibility of finder's fees and signing bonuses for psychologist positions. Drop the mic.
I had a question. I lost my train of thought. I apologize. Give myself a minute. So it typically should go through STDA so they really want to hire their own psychologist versus contracting out, which makes sense. But at this time, there's a gap in psychologists currently.
There's a big gap, but Mr. Grzinski makes an excellent point that there's still members of their bargaining unit, and it's no problem for us to consult with them before we actually put this on the consent agendas in the future.
So in the future, but today you need us to.
Whatever Mr. Grzinski needs, I'm hoping he'll approve this going through. Just because we are in desperate need of these people. Well, maybe that's not protocol. I'm sorry.
What I understood was a question about process, not a suggestion that we not approve, and it's the board's decision whether to
Yeah.
approve it or not.
I would love it if SDTA had veto power over some of these things, but I don't believe we do have that. Our position as SDTA is not to oppose this particular item or these three items
Okay.
at this time. We understand that it's just a 1 year. These are 1 year contracts,
Yes.
and you know that
You
this
get it.
is maybe,
Sure.
we're not in disagreement with it. It's just the process, the way that this is unfolded.
Okay. So what I, just want to make sure that any of our contracts, I don't know what the policy is, or if we have a policy on this, that maybe that's something the new policy committee could develop something related to making sure our STDA has input to the contracts before we go out to the community. With that said, I know we have had an increase in 504 plans and IEPs, and we do want to service those individuals with high quality and with efficiency. So I propose that we will go ahead and approve the contract 6.4.
I'll take that as a motion. Do we have a second?
Thank you so much.
Okay, all in favor?
But could we have a direction to create a policy around this so that that doesn't happen again?
I think maybe we should,
Get more input from
I
professionals.
think we should probably discuss with the administration whether
Okay.
we need a policy on it or not
Alright.
before we do that. So any discussion about approval of item 6.4, which have a motion and a second? Do we roll call vote on a pulled consent usually? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Student trustee Rodriguez Velasquez,
Yes.
student trustee Swaminathan, trustee Nori,
Yes.
trustee Ku,
Yes.
trustee Dubois,
Yes.
vice president Stevenson,
Yes.
president Ginn.
Yes. Okay, the next item.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item 7, comments from Sequoia District Teachers Association, SDTA. Would you like to make additional comments?
So once again, I'm Greg Rosinsky. I am a teacher at Woodside High School, and I'm also the bargaining chair of the Sequoia District Teachers Association. Our president, Ida Salvatore, couldn't be here today. And so I wanted to address an issue. I have a letter that our president, Ida Salvatore, had written and addressed to the board after the spate of meetings, so after Monday's meeting. And so I want to read the letter, and then I'll let you know what has changed in terms of the board complying with some of our requests. So on behalf of the members of Sequoia District Teachers Association, I'm hereby demanding that the board provide a copy of the contract signed between the Sequoia Union High School District Board of Trustees and legal counsel Eugene Whitlock, and that this agreement be discussed and voted upon in an open session meeting of the board. So the next part of this letter that was dated yesterday, so after Monday's meeting, but was that the board had not provided us with a copy of this contract, but now, as of now, we have received a copy of this documentation. And in the report out of the 12-9 special meeting of closed session, the board announced that it had engaged the services of Mr. Whitlock, a move that had not previously been disclosed as a topic of the closed session, violation of the Brown Act. Then President Du Bois then announced at the report out of the closed session of the 12/12/22 special meeting that the decision to engage Mr. Whitlock's services was based upon a vote of 4 in favor and 1 opposed. The letter goes on to say, the public deserves the right to know the terms of this agreement and who cast the votes in favor. This decision should be made in the light of open session and not furtively behind closed doors. Additionally, this is not in the original letter, that we request and demand that the board disclose any prior relationships on the part of board president, then President Dubois, and then Vice President Trustee Ginn to Mr. Whitlock prior to his hiring. Our members and our constituents depend on you to set an example for our students. Do not let them and us down by hiding your actions and refusing to take responsibility for them. So we have received a copy of the contract, but there is still more that we are requesting, right? We are demanding, right, that the board provide the basis of this vote in a public session so that we can know who voted for this council, right, in these events, this whirlwind of events that have happened since the new board has been sworn in. Thank you.
Okay, next are any comments from the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME? Is anybody here to make comments from that organization today? Okay, next we have the student trustee comments.
Hey, can you all hear me?
Can you all speak up because your voices are kind of quiet?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry Avantika and I couldn't be there with you today because I'm in middle college. I've got finals about a week early, so I'm in the midst of it all right now. So quick update for you today. Yesterday we had our 3rd meeting and spent some time with USC, who interviewed us on our experiences of equity and diversity in the district. We touched a lot on the experiences of our students in active lockdown situations and lack of transparency some students felt from the schools and the district. Once again, we hope to implement more drill and informational efforts to help our students feel safe at school. We did not have extra time to discuss solutions, but some of our members agreed that there should be some direction that moves beyond, Google slide presentations and into active practice. Although drills kind of vary through each school site's yearly schedule, we hope to have some sort of standardized practice as gun-related incidents increase in this district and districts across the country. Next SAC meeting, we will guide our members to create solutions they think could be helpful, but also effective and push SUHSD to be safety pioneers. However, with the news of this week, the SAC is a little unsure where we stand and wonder how exactly we are supported, wonder how we might define equity in a storm of inequity. Last week, when Dr. Williams looked me in the eye and told me her heart broke, I did not realize the weight of her words, and her absence today and for the rest of this year will continually break my heart. I share my personal comments concerning equity last week, and I do not wish for any patterns of dismissal we've discovered this week to continue. I speak on behalf of Avantika and our members were correct in pointing out the lack of transparency so far this year, and students feel not only disappointed but insecure in trusting our role models. I thank all the commenters we have so far for their words that inspire me continually. I welcome Trustee Nori and Trustee Koo to their terms and look forward to our discussions in the future. I hope that everyone stays safe, healthy, and happy during our winter break. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is public comment. Laura, how many cards do we have for public comment?
We currently have 4 cards this evening.
4 cards, okay. And do we have, let's get a show of Zoom hands and let's get a total count of how many total commenters we have, and then we'll decide how much time to give to each commenter. If we have anybody who's interested in making a public comment about item not on the agenda,
President Jin, do you want me to manage the online?
I think Laura and Rick
Laura's
are gonna
do both of
yep.
them? Okay.
So anyone who's interested in making a public comment about an item not on the agenda, please raise your hand now. We're going to get a list of all of the names, and then we'll decide amount of time for each person and go from there.
President Ginn, do you want to start with physical cards first and then end
Well,
with?
first I wanted the total number of both in-person or on Zoom attendees, and then we'll go from there.
So we currently have 8 on Zoom and then 4 physical.
Okay, can you record those 8 names, and we'll have those. So we have 12 total commenters, 8 on Zoom. If you can keep track of who those 8 are, and
Sure.
4, so that's 12 total cards. If we do 3 minutes each per our normal practice, it'd be 36 minutes, which I'm inclined to give everyone the normal 3 minutes, but I'll look to my colleagues, see if you are interested in shortening per board policy. If the total is more than 10 minutes, we can reduce and say people get less than the full 3 minutes. But we could choose to just extend to 36 minutes. The
No,
public
keep it
comment.
at 3 minutes, I think.
I think it's important to keep it at 3 minutes.
Okay, I agree.
Want people to be
I
able to
agree.
follow.
Okay, so we're gonna have each person 3 minutes. Rick and Laura, if you could lead us through these 12 public comments. Thank you.
Perfect. Our first public comment card is from Taja.
I'll always get in good trouble, necessary trouble, while continuing the fight of my ancestors to eradicate racism and expose white supremacy culture. I am Taja Henderson. I am a proud product of East Palo Alto. I have worked in this district for over 20 years. This year, due to my own advocacy and Dr. Williams' vision, I stepped into the role as the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Partner. Last Wednesday, I gave a well-received and appreciated presentation about what's been going on related to equity efforts and what's to come. With the departure of Chris Thompson and Alan Sarver from the board 6 days ago, I am now left wondering, what are this board's commitments to equity? With the pushing out of Dr. Williams, but it honestly feels like a termination. I've never been so disgusted. I've never been so sick to my stomach about the state of our district. I knew when she was hired that a target was put on her back. As a Black woman in America, as a Black woman in San Mateo County, I have firsthand experiences with the double standards, with unrealistic expectations of perfection, with the realities of being invisible and replaceable. I was naive to think that our district would give her a fair chance to do the job that she was hired to do. I never thought that her departure would happen in less than 2 years. However, this is exactly how white supremacy culture works. Carrie, you commented on the board's appearance of racial and cultural diversity. However, we all swim in this water called white supremacy culture. It permeates all spaces, especially public education. It impacts us differently, however. It takes a critical consciousness to realize how internalized racism manifests in BIPOC bodies. A few weeks ago, the board opted not to take the advice of Dr. Williams and hired Travis Bristol as your equity coach. The board wanted to wait until the new board was seated. Well, now you're seated, and it is clear to me how anti-Blackness has influenced your decisions. I encourage you to hire an equity coach immediately because your actions show that you have a lack of understanding of what equity, especially racial equity, diversity, and as well cultural inclusion really mean. Without having a basic understanding of what those concepts are, you are going to inflict more harm that you do not have the human capabilities to repair. This board should be recalled, and I stand with Dr. Darnice Williams.
Our next card is Rachel Andres or Rochelle Andres.
Good evening. I would actually like to start by noticing that this is the second meeting in a row where there is no live translation service. For a board that has talked about transparency, equity, and inclusion, you are blocking that access for many of our community members. As I mentioned in my email to you on Monday, I am still trying to approach with curiosity and assume positive intentions. I noticed that there was nothing on the agenda regarding Superintendent Williams this evening, and I wondered why, when there was such haste to swear in trustees Koo and Nori, there was not similar haste to communicate your positive intentions to parents, guardians, students, staff, or community members that you represent. As an employee and a resident of this district, I do not feel reassured at this point. I noticed a lack of transparency in the board's actions over the last week, and I wonder how that aligns with your understanding of how you serve the members of our district community and how it impacts them. I am not sure how we hope to attract quality candidates for superintendent or any other positions in our district now. I noticed that the press release read tonight mentioned equity and anti-bias work several times. I wonder why I do not see evidence of the collaborative and community-based leadership that I would expect to see in an organization rooted in anti-racist work. We will be bargaining for a new certificated contract in the spring, and the events of the last week do not help me as a member of that bargaining unit feel that our negotiations will be in good faith.
Our next speaker will be Alan.
Good evening. Alan Sarver, former board member, resident of Belmont. This is the meeting that Chris Thompson and I were looking forward to coming to welcome two new board members to the Sequoia Union High School District Board. And Chris told me he would echo what I said, so I better not screw up. Welcome to the board. We are glad to see a full complement and a board team ready to take the district forward. I wanted to very much congratulate you and welcome you here. But I also wanted to talk about, I have spoken up and Chris Thompson has spoken up at the last couple of meetings. And I think both of us spoke with more passion and a radiation of anger than has been either of our style over the years. And I wanted to begin by apologizing to the board for bringing that kind of a tone. It is not the way I like to operate. I don't think it is the way that helps get messages through and move things forward productively. And so all of my interest is in doing everything we can for the best operation of this district, for the best outcome of our students, the best working environment for our staff, and the best service to our community. And the board has all of that responsibility, that authority, that power and opportunity. And so with that, I very much wish the board, the governance team, the district, the very best of luck moving forward, and want to continue to offer that I am in the community and I am happy to be tapped on in any way I can be of service with historical information, perspective, or anything you would like of me, any way you ask me to help. I do recognize that we are entered now into a time of healing. We are hearing from the community a lot of concern and distrust. Clearly, the news at the beginning of this evening's meeting is among the most disruptive news and events that district operations can absorb. And so I encourage you to be very engaged with the community, very carefully listening, very carefully leaning on the advice and great services that staff has to offer. And again, good luck moving the district forward well.
Our last physical card will be Abby.
Hi. This public comment is truly for the public. I call on community members, teachers, students, and their families to pay attention right now and for the next 2 years to these board meetings until we vote again in November elections, to hold your elected officials accountable, to know that we have the right to vote for these 5 people, and they're meant to guide our district on our behalf. You have a right, community, to email them at any time at board@seq.org, to ask them questions, give them your feedback, and to speak on the record at board meetings anytime, as I have modeled frequently. Your vote actually matters most on local issues like your school board. Based on this past November's election, we have a new board that pushed our first Black woman superintendent out in less than 1 week, behind closed doors, in a special Friday and then special Monday meeting, based on nothing that they will disclose to us. At the special closed session board meeting on Monday, where this new board reviewed the superintendent's evaluation, 100 people more than usual signed on to listen to the board share their thoughts, and at least 20 people spoke in public comment. At the end of it, the board chose to report out nothing after their closed session. So what could possibly have warranted this push out? What could possibly have warranted the upheaval this now causes to our assistant superintendents, our principals, our teachers, and our school and our students? After multiple positive reviews from the previous board and only positive firsthand experiences, what could possibly have warranted this urgent pushing out? If this is warranted, the public deserves to know what happened. If the board will not share what they've discussed in closed session or their concerns around our superintendent that led them to review her evaluation again, I want the public to assume that this was not warranted. I want the public to hear that no staff in SUHSD was aware or a part of these decisions. Many of our colleagues are texting us right now, shocked, alarmed, and worried. I want the public to listen to the equity, diversity, and inclusion partners who tonight and on Monday night are the only ones who've given us a reason for this push out: anti-Blackness. I stand with Taja and Dr. Darnice Williams and many SUHSD community and staff members. This is not what any of us need right now. Public, your voice needs to be heard and you need to be paying attention. Get on the email list to find out when board meetings happen. It's the only way many of us even knew these special meetings were happening. They aren't on the website.
We are now moving into our Zoom public comments. Ellen Jacobson. Ellen Jacobson. Okay, next would be Jeremy Array.
Hello? Hello?
We hear you.
Okay. Thank you for this time and space to speak. I'm glad that inclusive learning environments were brought up by our new board member, Amy, and I'm glad that Satvik brought up educational stimulus. Part of both things is first realizing that before we can challenge students, we need to meet them with culturally relevant education that helps them to form a solid identity and be confident in who they are culturally. No school is doing enough in that area, and a lack of solid identity is what I see affecting a student's passion and drive towards education the most. And part of an inclusive learning environment is budgeting more for paid roles and equity beyond the bare minimum. Inclusive learning environments also means retaining staff of color who represent our student body, help with their identity and connection to education, and also show the BIPOC staff in our district a basic level of respect as far as how the board makes decisions. The recent actions of the board have created an environment where many staff do not feel welcome, safe, appreciated, or that the board can be trusted. And what I find personally disturbing is that the district propped up Dr. Williams as the first Black female superintendent who was here to do work of equity and championed that decision and welcomed all the praise for it. However, they removed her in a secretive way that we saw with many equity projects pending and in a limbo. And it was completely dismissive of the feelings of many people in our district, particularly those of the Black community among our staff. Black females in education already have enough to shoulder so much of a burden. And the actions of the board show a distinct lack of respect because it leaves people to wonder if she did something wrong and why should that be associated with her if that's not the case. In trying to keep an open mind and not attack people, maybe there was a good reason and maybe there wasn't, but the problem is we still don't know. So that's why we need clarity and transparency. By not being transparent, the board is contributing to harmful gossip, racial traumas, and contributing to a hostile work environment without taking corrective action after many people have brought the issue to their attention. The communication from our staff and community, as well as the lack of response, is all being documented, and there's now a paper trail. So please know that if I told one single Black person looking to work in education at this district what happened with our superintendent, not a single one would be attracted to working here. I would hate to think that maybe that is the goal or the message that's trying to be sent. And if it isn't, then put some action behind it. And I strongly suggest that you issue an apology to the district, to the Black community, to the entire community, and provide more explanation for your actions so that you can support your LCAP goal of hiring and retaining staff of color.
Next is Jenny Ortiz.
Hi, it's Jenny Ortiz. My name is Jenny Ortiz, Social Studies Chair at Woodside High School, Ethnic Studies teacher. I have been with this district for 24 years and I grew up in the North Fair Oaks area. I have 3 questions. The first is, why have you shared a long list of accomplishments, reasons why Dr. Williams should still be with us, but no evidence as to why she left the district? My second question is, if the superintendent left the district under an amicable agreement, this would indicate that the board was displeased with her performance. In the interest of transparency, when will you share your concerns with the public? My third question is, why was Dr. Streschley's leave handled vastly different from Dr. Williams? This decision has re-traumatized, it has angered, it has upset many students, educators, parents, and community members. We will not forget this decision. I will leave you with a well-known quote heard around the world: let them eat cake. Board members, I hope you enjoyed that cake just minutes after you gave the public such devastating news. I've been left with a bad taste in my mouth and a loss of hope with this district I have loved for over 20 years.
Next is Eva Tang.
Good evening, board. First of all, I'd like to echo Rachel's comments earlier. The fact that we have so many Spanish-speaking families, yet no translation for tonight or many of our other meetings is just another symptom of the racism that exists in this district. Barring Dr. Darnice Williams's gender and race, you don't lose somebody with her amount of experience and education without there being a toxic and hostile work environment. There are questions that the public has that need to be answered, and somehow, some way, we are going to find out why Dr. Darnice Williams really left. You can either tell us with transparency, or we can find out ourselves. Anybody worth their weight in teaching understands that when you're not transparent with your students, they can smell it on you. And we, as your staff, can smell it on you too. We were hoping as BIPOC staff that having a BIPOC administrator would be helpful in getting these diversity and equity initiatives that we need in order to serve our students done. And that somehow our board and our other administrators would be supportive in these initiatives that would increase positive outcomes for both our BIPOC students and also our white students. Because when you have retention of BIPOC staff and BIPOC teachers, positive outcomes increase for BIPOC students and also for white students. However, I'm not so sure that with the abrupt departure of Dr. Darnice Williams, that you will be able to retain staff of color. And I'm tired of seeing my BIPOC colleagues leave year after year. And if you can't retain and hire teachers of color and staff of color, what does that mean for our BIPOC students? When you say that you want positive outcomes for all of your students, how much do you really mean that? Because with the departure of Dr. Darnice Williams, it doesn't show me that you think that Black Lives Matter. What am I supposed to do when I go into my advisory class tomorrow and I look at my 2 Black female students? What hope do you have for them if you can't retain a Black female superintendent for even more than a year and a half? There are questions, and we're going to find those answers.
Next is Mallory Byrne.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Thank you.
Yes.
Just a heads up that Ellen Jacobson did not receive the unmute button. So I'm Mallory Byrne. I teach ethnic studies and US history at Menlo Atherton. And I want to share the Board of Trustees purpose, which is posted on the Sequoia Union website. Quote, according to the California School Boards Association, the role of the school board is to ensure that school districts are responsive to the values, beliefs, and priorities of their communities. Boards fulfill this role by performing 5 major responsibilities. 1, setting direction. 2, establishing an effective and efficient structure. 3, providing support. 4, ensuring accountability. 5, providing community leadership as advocates for children, the school district, and public schools. End quote. As of right now, many staff members that work for this school district do not believe that this new board is fulfilling its democratic duties that they were voted in to accomplish. It feels as though this board has already become an oligarchy, conducting incredibly important business behind closed doors that will impact the thousands of people that belong to this district. What direction is this board taking our district in? Is it one of inclusivity and equity? I truly hope so, but there are many individuals who are frightened to continue working in this district based on the real fears that they have based on the last unprecedented closed session meetings conducted by this school board. Why did you all let go of Dr. Williams right at this moment? Why was a trusted, highly valued leader that, according to the article that was just released, who has made positive and needed changes in this district, pushed out of her position? There are many members of this community who don't know what is going on, who are taking time out of their busy schedules when we should be preparing our students for their final exams. Indeed, you all are steering the vision and direction of this school district, but you also have constituents that you should be engaged with and staff members who you should be working with and caring for. Where are we going? Please make it clear. Just like many teachers post their objectives for their lessons every day on their boards, it would be a good idea for the board to post the 5 objectives that I stated in the beginning of my message somewhere visible to themselves and reflect on whether or not you all are serving us in the best possible way that you can. I yield my time.
Next is Pablo Aguilera.
Hi, can you all hear me?
We can. And Rick, if you could let people know if they ask if we can hear them, that'd be great.
I mean, anyone can answer it with a quick nod of the head, that's fine. Hi, I'm Pablo Aguilera, and as I mentioned before, on Monday, I am the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion partner, along with Taja, who so powerfully and one of the employees spoke. I'm also a longtime teacher and community member and grew up in this area. I'd just like to mention, I spent the day working on the damages that you've caused. I spent the day talking to consultants, speakers that were coming to PD, partners and collaborators with the district who weren't sure if they actually wanted to continue with us because of the anti-Blackness going on. A lot of those relationships happened because of Dr. Williams. So I had to spend a day telling them what happened when they were asking questions. And then I'm not necessarily telling them to continue. Like, why would I want to invite them into this space? So I just kept it real with them. But I don't think you understand the level of damage and pain that you have inflicted and the long-lasting effects of that. I mean, did you listen to the student trustee talking about the effects on students? Like, did you listen? And did that, like, you talk about like mental health, wellness, and that you care about students, but did you listen to what she said? Your own colleague, like, she's literally your own colleague, and she was talking about that pain. Like, do you care? Like, honestly, like, does it care enough? I mean, to answer Jenny's questions, like, the reasons why is because Dr. Williams is Black and she's a woman, different set of expectations. Listen to what Taja said, right? Like, the effect of that, the pain of the Black staff. Taja had to hold space today for Black staff across the district because they're not well, right? They're holding space for Black students because they're not well. Like, do you understand the level of pain, the level of damage that you have caused? Like, that's something that you have to understand. But the reality is, I don't think you care on the same level that you would care about other students. And don't tell me you do. Your actions have spoken louder than your words. There is no mutual agreement of separation. We're not dumb. We all know she was pushed out, right? And why would she ever want to come back, even if you did invite her? It's just wrong. And I just also wanted to update that, you know, we thank Shawnice for participating in the EEC as a board member. But the second seat for that, Carrie, we're going to pause on that because we need some healing to occur. And we all don't necessarily feel that you are welcome in that space after orchestrating this. So we're taking a pause on that. Thank you.
Next is Carol Ann Coleman.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Carolyn Coleman, teacher at Sequoia High School of 20 years, parent of a student that's actually going there right now to Sequoia High School, and a mother, and part of the affinity groups that Dr. Williams was fundamental in creating. I echo to the 10th, maybe the 20th degree of everything that's been stated. And what resonates with me is our student trustees and their voices saying that their hearts are broken. I'm still in shock. I just can't get through this. And I was thinking Dr. Williams must have done something incredibly devastating to make this mutually agreed upon thing to happen. What I've noticed traditionally in the past, when someone retires or someone moves on, there's usually some kind of celebration, wishing them success. And they probably have cake too. And I just think that Dr. Williams should be here. I was like so surprised to at least not see her in the audience. She needs to be here to know that a lot of people appreciate her and appreciate the building of bridges that she has done. My fear is that the bridges seem to be being shattered or blown up. I want to go back to our students. I totally understand if anyone would not want to continue in our district, but I'm just thinking about the kids and the students and how we need to have more people thinking of our students, and ultimately what example is being represented to our students, especially our BIPOC students. Again, I ask, don't our students deserve the most honest transparency, the most compassion, so that they can also do better in this world? I'm not sure that they're feeling that at this moment. I do stand behind Ida Salvatore's letter. I was also very hopeful that there would be some information of the reasons why Dr. Williams was, I'm going to call it sidelined, because I think being honest is really.
Next is Rhonda.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for your nod. Appreciate it. Good evening. My name is Rhonda White, and I am a product of the East Palo Alto and a resident. I'm also a parent of a student at one of the high schools in your district. I am concerned by the heinous and unprofessional actions of this board. Since you began these clandestine meetings in violation of the Brown Act prior to swearing in the two new board members on Friday at 2 p.m., it continues to show the community that you are not for us. You are not about our students. You are not for equity. You are not for diversity. These actions are unethical and illegal. And that is noted because in your board agenda for Friday, December 9th at 2 o'clock, item number 3.1 in closed session says, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to subdivision D2 of section 54956.9, which means prior to coming in this meeting and swearing in the two board members, you were well aware, some of you, of what your actions were going to be, which was to fire Dr. Darnice Williams. Since this board refuses to talk themselves off the ledge and reverse this unwarranted let go, release, firing, whatever y'all want to call it, I want to serve this board notice that my community, we are watching you diligently, more so than ever, because of this lack of transparency, lack of distrust. And we are waiting until the next campaign comes so we can vote you guys out if a recall is not done sooner. The damage you have done is just ridiculous and just a mountain. As you can see, I'm at a loss for words and I'm stumbling. Simply ridiculous, utterly embarrassing. Thank you.
President, again, we will go back to Ellen Jacobson because of her meeting issues. So Ellen Jacobson.
Yay, it worked. Okay, hi. Thank you so much. Nod your head if you can hear me. Fantastic. Thank you. I just want to say thank you for your time. I want to thank everybody who's already spoken. You've taken some of my words, so I don't feel the need to repeat what has been so eloquently and passionately said. There is a lot of hurt in our district right now. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of mistrust. And there needs to be some healing. There needs to be transparency. There are rumors still swirling, and that needs to be cleared up. As a soon-to-be parent, as an alum, as a teacher, and as a taxpayer, I'm wondering what the board will be doing to help the healing process. And I can understand right now that there may need to be some space for that healing to even begin. But what are you going to do to squash rumors that are flying around? What will be the new process to hire a new superintendent? I am hoping that our community at large will be invited to the table. This is two superintendents that have, I don't even know what the word, they have not left on their own free will. Dr. Williams allegedly has, according to the newspaper. But what will be the process to hire a new superintendent? Where is the leadership? There is absolutely no leadership right now. And as somebody who thrives on structure, the structure is breaking. I implore the board to soothe and be transparent and find a way to make amends. My colleagues and I, we are just all at, there's absolutely no words. Everybody has spoken what I needed to say. It's just horrific. And if there is something that needs to be said to help us understand why what has happened, please let us know so we can begin to heal. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate you coming back to me. Thank you.
President, again, we had 5 additional people who raised their hands after we recorded the 8 speakers. So it's up to you on how do we want to approach them.
It looks like I actually see 6 more at the moment.
So now additional 6 now.
I think it's important to hear people.
I do too. I think it helps with the,
Okay, so why don't we take the next 6 and then we'll call it at that, unless people want to go beyond 6 more, if that
So
hands keep coming.
it looks like Adrian Perkins is the last one. If we can just give him 30 seconds. If there is anyone else that needs to speak, please raise your hand. And unfortunately, after Adrian, we should be done. And then give our board address. Adrian, I saw that you put your hand down. Do you still want to speak? We would give you, okay.
Okay, so let's take these 6 more and then that'll be the end of public comment.
Okay, our first speaker will be Jenny Bloom. Jenny?
Jenny?
Okay, next we'll have Amika.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Cabinet. I just feel compelled to share that I know all of us as principals, I guess I can only speak for myself, are looking forward to direction and teamwork because the healing that we need to do is profound. I have been working with superintendents since 1995. I have lost count of how many superintendents I've worked for, and I do want to publicly state that Darnice Williams has coached me in ways that were far superior to anything that I've experienced before. Her ability to help me problem solve, help me get to the answer, not by telling me what to do, but coaching me in a way that I was in awe of what she did. Dr. Chacon was there when it happened, and she can tell you all about it. So I publicly wanted to state what the loss of leadership will feel for me personally. I also want to urge you to please think very strategically and carefully about the healing. Now we not only have to heal from the pandemic and Black Lives Matter, all the work that came with that and the work that still needs to be done, we now have to heal for ourselves as a community. And please know that we're here for that because our team is leaning on us. And we need your direction because we haven't had any. And I have to have faith that we can get everyone through this because it is, I hope you understand the hurt that has come from this on so many levels throughout the community and for the work that we are going to have to engage in. And just please know that we are your team. We want to help. And you please need to engage us any way that you can, because if we are not part of the healing, we are left, I don't know, it just seems like a lost opportunity. So thank you for making this time, especially because I came in late. But please know that I publicly am going to deeply miss Dr. Williams. Thank you.
Next is going to be Danny Bliss. Danny? Next will be Antonio Lopez.
Wow. Good evening, trustees, for I believe it's the 3rd time this week. In a week, I've lost count. I'd like to come to y'all with more positive disposition. I'd like to praise and appreciate the work that y'all do. I'd like to come to you all with hope and vigor and appreciation for us coming together, for fighting for equity, for fighting for diversity, for fighting for our Black, Latino, BIPOC students. I want to believe the best intentions in you guys. I want to believe that you guys are for communities like East Palo Alto, like Bellhaven, like Norfolk, like Redwood City, as well as Woodside and Atherton. And yet, this past week, in the middle of finals, in the middle of teachers trying to teach their students, we see the lack thereof. We see us rolling back in history. I think back of Ms. Rhonda White and our African-American elders and the things they lived through, of seeing this district be better, of believing that we can come together, I don't care what color we are, and put people in positions to help and to raise the profile and make, as Sarver and Thompson said, make this district be a leader in the state and even the country. And you know what I'm left with? I'm left with this pernicious, gnawing feeling as an EPA kid of, as people of color, we get to a position, we break a glass ceiling. We get to a position where we can truly, truly be stewards of our community. And we try to shake things up to really be equitable, to truly be levers of power and levers of influence, and really make sure that our kids feel seen and heard and excited, right? So when Ms. Coleman says we come back to the table with our, I hope we can get a new superintendent, why would we? Why would we trust that this district, when they surveyed us last time, would put someone that reflects our interests? When with the resignation of Dr. Williams, we had that opportunity. There hasn't been any reason given to the public. So how are we supposed to trust? How am I supposed to tell my residents, the kids who look up to us, that this district is one that is gonna fight for you when the person who was doing that DEI work is gonna leave? I feel ashamed. I feel disappointed because I look at this board and I look at the promise it has, the diversity it has, the range of experiences, and this is the first impression you're making on our community? I want to invite dialogue. I want to believe that there's better hope for our students. And yet this moment doesn't prove that for us. We have to heal. We have to come together. Thank you.
Next is Lucas McGagan. Lucas?
What name are you saying? Lucas?
Lucas? Next is Adrian Perkins.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who spoke tonight. And, I'm hearing parents, I'm hearing the students, I'm hearing my staff members. And I just want to say at the end of all of this, if we believe in Dr. Williams' work, how do we come together back as a community strong? Because in the end, we are the adults. Our kids need us more than ever. We need to rally up and do what's expected and continue to lead the way. I want to say this with my chest. I feel our district is strong. Our school sites are strong. We have strong leaders. So we come together, we pick ourselves up, and we continue the work that needs to be done for our students because they need us. So regardless of how we feel, we put that to the side and we come together and we get the work done. Sequoia Union, East Palo Alto, East Menlo Park, Redwood City, Atherton, who's ever on here. We come together and we do what's expected and we do what we know how to do. We hold our heads up. We're one, we're a united front. And I like to say we have a lot of powerful people in our district and our community. So after tonight, we should leave empowered. We should stand together. We should go into that classroom and we should come out doing what we do together and show our kids this is how you move in the face of adversity. So I want to leave here tonight saying we are going to be okay because we are all coming together, and that shows everyone of all backgrounds because that is what we stand for. So it doesn't have to stop here. Let's keep going together, stronger than ever, and we see it. So let's lead with our hearts and continue to do the work. It does not stop. Let that fire lead us. Thank you.
And we have Jenny Bloom back. Jenny Bloom.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Hi, Jenny Varghese Bloom, member of the Ravenswood City School District. This is my 4th time in the last 7 days to be speaking in front of this board. I've heard a lot about how people are feeling. I hear anger, I hear disappointment, I hear people wanting to move forward. I fall in the category of anger and disappointment. Because as much as we want to move forward and as much as the community that I represent, the community of Pacific Islanders, the community of Black students, the community of Latino students, we will move forward because we are resilient. We are people who do pick ourselves up, who are empowered, who will move forward. But I will say the same thing that I said in the last board meeting. I want to hear from every trustee why our first female Black superintendent is no longer in this district. So I will not move forward with people who will not speak to us publicly about what they did and why they did it. Because what you have shown me by pushing out Dr. Williams is that you do not care about equality and inclusivity. Dr. Williams made strides in that. Dr. Williams included our district in things that I hope continue to go forward and happen for our children. Because if they don't happen through this district, we'll figure out a way to make it happen for us. But she shook things up and she made things happen. She brought in equity. She brought that conversation here. And all I can think about is the reason she is not here is because she was doing that work. So what that tells me is the majority of this board does not want to do that work. So how can I, as a board member who represents communities, continue to come to the table and want to pursue healing with people who continue to harm and hurt us? And you guys need to answer to that. Because we will be resilient. We will work through this. We will be strong. But you know what? We're tired of being resilient and we are tired of working through this. But don't count us out because we will still be here. But if you really want healing, if you really want to move forward, then what I need to hear is I need to hear repentance. I need to hear cutting off things that are dead and sucking life out of this district, that we cut those things out instead of cutting out the things that bring life into this district. Our community members and our kids will still continue to come to this district because this is the community school. The question is how will you treat them? I do believe the teachers and the people who care about students of color will be there 100%, but I don't see that from this board. And I am disappointed, very disappointed. I hope to move forward, but you know what I need and you know what we need.
Okay, Rick, thank you for hosting the public comment. That was all of them, as we said that was the last 6, right? You got everybody from the second 6? Yes. I think we said that would be the last, that group of 6, so we're going to stick with that. So I propose we take a short break and come back at when this clock says 8:30. If anyone needs to use the restroom or get a drink or something, and then we'll move on starting at 8:30. Okay, we're returning from a short break and moving on to information item 10.1, new legislation of stats of teleconferencing meetings.
And there is a slide deck that goes along with this if we want to put that up. Thank you, Josue. So this item is for the new legislation, the status of remote teleconferencing at meetings and specifically board meetings. The governor signed Assembly Bill 2449 in September of 2022. The purpose of this bill was in part to ensure minimum standards for public participation and notice requirements, allowing for greater public participation in teleconference meetings, including board meetings. And to accomplish this objective, AB 2449 adds a slew of requirements related to access to the meeting, notice, agendas,
and cause for remote participation to the existing Brown Act requirements. Distinct from Assembly Bill 361, which we were all very familiar with over the last year, boards do not have to make any findings, including the findings required every 30 days by AB 361 related to state of emergency to use this option. So in short, we can sunset AB 361 and having to decide every 30 days if we want to continue with that and just move forward with the requirements of Assembly Bill 2449, which I will cover right now.
I think trustee Jen was really in favor of that 30-day word. I read it all over his face.
I did look at President Kim when I said that, but he was trying not to make eye contact. So essentially, board members in this case can participate remotely for two reasons, either for just cause or to consider and take action on a request from a member to participate remotely in a meeting due to emergency circumstances. This goes into this law goes into effect on January 1st, 2023. So you all will be able to partake of it. So we'll talk a little bit about what is just cause. So a board member may elect to participate via teleconference for just cause. Just cause is anything having to do with childcare or caregiving, having to do with if anyone has a contagious illness, not necessarily COVID, but can be COVID, can be RSV, flu, all the other things that we know are going around that prevents them from participating in person. It can be a need related to anything physical, mental disability that may not otherwise be accommodated, or if a board member is traveling while on official business of the legislative body or another state or local agency. Is very specific with that one. With just cause, the member unilaterally notifies the other board members at the earliest opportunity possible, including at the start of a regular meeting, which that it can be if that's the earliest possible notification of the board members' need to participate remotely for just cause. This includes a general description of the circumstances relating to their need to appear remotely at the given meeting. So you can say, I am out ill. I will need to use my just cause. Just know that just cause circumstances can be unilaterally exercised by a board member. It does not require board consent or approval. However, it's limited to 2 meetings per calendar year. So each board member can use just cause 2 times for teleconferencing into a board meeting. Then there are emergency circumstances. This is a physical or family medical emergency, preventing a member from attending in person. The legislative body, so the board again, requests a 20-word general description of the circumstances relating to their need to appear remotely at the given meeting. The request can be made and acted upon at the beginning of the meeting to which the request applies. The prohibition on taking action on items not appearing on a timely posted agenda is suspended for purposes of approving a request. So if it comes up last minute. The members request the legislative body to allow them to participate in a particular meeting remotely due to emergency circumstances. And again, that comes with a 20-ish word description. And this one does require a majority vote of the board at the beginning of the meeting. So everyone would need to consent to that particular request, that particular board meeting member saying that they're not going to be there due to emergency circumstances. Neither of the new grounds for remote attendance require that it has to be about COVID-19. It could be, again, family emergencies, mental health and wellness. It could be the flu. It could be traveling for work, et cetera, all the ones I mentioned earlier. And both provisions require that at least a quorum of the board be physically present in the same room where the public may attend and give comment. So there still has to be a quorum present for the board meeting because the one teleconferencing in doesn't count as a quorum physically there. And also permits remote public participation, including public comment. The member who is using just cause or emergency purposes must publicly disclose at the meeting before any action is taken whether any other individuals 18 years of age or older are present in the room at the remote location with the member, and the general nature of the member's relationship with any such example. So for example, I am here at home sick with my 18-year-old son, would be the way to disclose that. And the member must participate through both audio and visual technology. And what that means in checking with legal, it was having your camera on, having your, being able to mute and unmute you to participate. And obviously, cameras can go off every once in a while if there's distractions or movement, but as votes are being taken, as comments are being made, to actually have the visual and the camera on. Remote participation can't serve as a means for any member of a legislative body to participate in meetings of the board solely by teleconference for a period of more than 3 consecutive months. So essentially 20% of the regular meetings within a calendar year. So it can be used, but not just as an ongoing teleconferencing into board meetings. And any Brown Act body that wishes to retain the option to allow members to participate must also allow remote public comment, which we already do. So we meet that one. AB 361 remains into effect until January 1st. At that point, it will sunset, and we will move on to AB 2449, which is a bigger umbrella of reasons to teleconference into a board meeting. That is the gist of it. This is just an information item. It is not something that needs to be voted on. This will go into effect January 1st, and it is the right of all the board to decide if you will need to teleconference in for just cause or emergency reasons.
Okay, thank you. I know I have some questions, but I'll let others go first. So go ahead, Shanice, I'll go last.
Oh, I have a question. Because all the laws have changed a little bit because of COVID, and I want to make sure I understand. This is definitely allow people for emergency or just cause or anything like that, and that replaces the other one that we used to do every 30 days.
Yes.
So that's wonderful. And we don't only have to approve that once, correct?
We don't, it's not, you don't have to approve it at all. It's an assembly bill saying this is what
Okay.
boards will now do in order to meet Brown Act requirements instead of doing AB 361 every 30
okay,
days.
got
So
it.
this is just information
This is
item.
just information.
Yep, starting January 1st, you're covered by this and can utilize this.
Okay, then my other question, what if it's not a just cause? Maybe you're on vacation and you still want to call in. How does that typically work?
So it says the only one it gives is travel while on official business or another state local agency business. So
Because
according
I-
to the assembly bill, being on vacation would not count.
This
for
actually is one of my
teleconferencing.
questions as well, because it was before that if you
Because-
gave
yeah.
notice and it was on the agenda and you posted the agenda at the alternate
Yeah.
location, that you could do it like
Yeah.
before COVID, before everything. Has
Right.
that rule changed, or does that remain that if you know you're going to be gone, you give notice before the agenda is posted, it's on the agenda at the
Was that
alternate
on the 30
location, or
day
has that gone
resolution?
away?
I can check in with legal about that and get back to you
I
via
think that
either
would be
Friday.
helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. And by the way, I made a mistake and should have gotten public comment before going to board member questions.
I'm sorry.
So no, my mistake. Laura, we have public comment.
Yes, we do have one comment card from Abby Corman on item 10.1.
Okay. But I'll check back with legal on that last question and get to you. Thank you. I think maybe Shanice's question answered mine, but I'm still going to say this. Please publicly correct me if I'm wrong after I finish speaking, of course, but I believe legislation AB 2449 is not only for our board members, but also the legislation for our community to join in and be a part of board meetings remotely. We've seen since the Zooming in option for board meetings began that our community has consistently engaged in this method of communication, and we've heard from more stakeholders than ever whom this board serves on behalf of and is beholden to. This engagement of our community is an indication that Zooming into board meetings should continue as an option. Allowing the community to Zoom in is working, it works. Because our district serves such a large geographic region and we live in the Bay Area where it can take an hour to go just a few miles, because COVID's still a thing, because we've seen more engagement than ever through Zoom,
Because we all have things going on in our lives outside of board meetings, the remote Zoom option must stay. I think I'm hearing that legislation AB 2449 does not take away the public Zoom option, but my public comment is just to urge the board to make sure that this option stays. I urge the board to think about what it looks like to keep and maintain this option to hear from the community. If through any action, the board chooses to take this option away, it will only cement in the community's mind this board's commitment to secrecy over transparency. And again, we'll let your actions, not your words, show us who you are. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, Shawnee, sorry, if you want to have any more questions, go ahead.
I think I'm listening to Abby. I don't think this prohibits us from doing teleconferencing. It actually allows us to do that.
It actually says that with 2449, if any board member is allowed to teleconference in, it's also in the
It has to
clause
do
that
teleconferencing.
community needs to be able to make public comment.
Yeah,
via
and our board
teleconference.
has already been very supportive, the former board and the current, I didn't ask the current members, but we were supportive of that just because I know living in East Palo Alto, our families typically can't get over here during rush hour. So hopefully that's still the case, that I'm glad that's part of this. My only thing is the vacation, because I do remember, I think we had graduations and taking people to college. I mean,
right.
For those of us who are parents on the board, like that flexibility was very helpful.
Okay, I will check in
Okay.
with county council on that. and
Thank
let
you so
know.
much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Amy?
Just had one clarification. If you are remote joining the meeting, it said you needed to disclose anyone who was 18 and over. That's only if they're in the same room. So if you close the door and they're in a different room, then you're
Right.
good.
In the location where
Okay.
you were publicly working active in this board meeting.
Okay.
Right.
Anybody else have questions? Okay, so I'll just say, Abby Corman, I was part of pushing to have this approach, and I really like it. I heard Shanice say she wants to keep it exactly like we have it. I think being able to have people participate remotely, we have 62 people attending remotely right now, that it's very important, and it makes it a lot easier. I know when I was a board candidate, being able to watch from home made participation much easier. Does any board member have any alternate feelings on this? Because I think we're okay. So no changes. And then I was wondering, Dr. Chacon, if you could I'm not sure I understand, and we can maybe talk offline, but what the difference is between an emergency and just cause, because it seemed like health was a just cause, but health is also an emergency. So I wasn't sure.
Yes, the biggest difference is one, you can use the emergency as many times as you want, just cause only twice. However, emergency has to be voted on and agreed by the board that you can use that emergency meeting, whereas just cause does not.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And it is all in the slide, but I can forward you a memo about it as well that outlines it all.
Okay, that'd be great.
So we need to put that in our policies or anything like that, or is it just?
It's state law.
Because it's an assembly bill, it just is.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Okay, the next item is item 10.2, the Measure A Citizens Bond Oversight Committee Report.
Good evening. I would like to invite John Violet, our Measure A Bond Oversight Committee Chair, to share with you the last and final report of Measure A.
Thank you, Crystal. And yes, I was thinking about it this afternoon, and this month marks the 8th anniversary of the existence of this committee, since the bond was passed in June of 2014 and the bond sales began and the committee was formed and had our first meeting in December of 2014. And over that time, over those 8 years, we have met at least, well, we started meeting on a quarterly basis, then it was 3 times a year. And as projects slowed down twice, and then during COVID, yeah, we all know that outcome. But I was here in August. I presented the report to the board in August. At that point in time, we were kind of catching up. We had 2 years of audits and fill in on the meetings of what had transpired over the COVID period. And this year we met in June, and now we have met in December. And you have then what is the outcome of those meetings is the final 3 reports that were attachments to your information memo that was put together by staff. The first item in the report is the annual report, which lists the committee members. And on the second page discusses the 2 meetings and the highlights from the meetings. And I think the important thing on that is in both cases where it says unsold Measure A and bond authority, 0. So it's done. The second report was the report to the community, and the highlight on the report to the community is highlighting the major projects that were done over the course using the bond funds that were acquired at that time. And then the final report is a statement of compliance, which is signed by myself as the chair of the committee. So it's been all spent under separate cover. I believe you have received the audit report. That is the final audit report on Measure A. And with that, we consider our work done. And guess what? Get to start with Measure W. Twice as large, twice as much money, twice as much many things to deal with. And I would be remiss without first also thanking very much the committee members who stuck with this over the 8 years. Janet Hart, Jerry Carlson, Lisa Costa Sanders, Ernesto Jasco, and Susie Payton. They were all very patient and working to that. And likewise, Enrique Navas, who was the former finance person, along with Matt Zito, who was the former project manager, and Luis Pacheco, who of course now we have Crystal and Jay Newman. Their diligence, they were the workhorses behind putting the reports together and helping the committee understand what was going on. So with that, if there's any questions, happy to answer them if I can. Otherwise, the committee, Bond Oversight Committee or Measure A committee's work is finished.
Thank you, John. I'll first ask Laura if there's any public comment on this item. Okay, then I'll ask if there's any board member questions or comments. Amy?
I can't see. No questions.
No, okay, Satvik?
Oh, I'd just like to say thank you so much for your work. It's really great to have citizen oversight over how we spend our money, and I look forward to more work on Measure W. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, first of all. And secondly, I think that's one of the things that is good when you go to the public asking them to give their approval, is knowing that that there will be this oversight committee, but more importantly, is having the regular reports so that the community could access it and look and have the reassurance.
Shawnee's or Carrie?
Yeah, great.
Go ahead, Carrie.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just want to,
Thank you for 8 years of service on our Bond Oversight Committee.
can I say something? I just want to say my children really benefit from the work that you have done. I know I got kind of choked up knowing that Trustee Sarver, we knew he was going to retire from the board at that time. We didn't know Chris. And I actually got teary-eyed going through Tide saying, this is the fruit of your vote. And so there's something about voting and being able to contribute to the quality education. And as a mom, I want to say thank you. I know I got a lot on my mind, so it's not you. But when I hear students say that they like Tide or they like the Performing Arts Center or the new maker space or whatever it is, that it is because of your service. It is because of your service. It's because of our vote, but it is because of your service. So thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. The next item is a discussion item that I actually asked to have on here. So this is the protocols for in-person attendance. If you all turn to the first page of this agenda, the very first page, it says how to participate, and then it says for in-person attendance, and it has the address of the room we're in. I propose keeping all of that, but what follows are rules relating to COVID, which are no longer rules that we follow. And I would propose striking that from future agendas. Since one board member can act alone, wanted to see if any board member had any. So the words that I would propose striking, the very front page, the words I propose striking are all in-person meetings attendees, including district staff members, presenters, participants, and those wishing to observe must do the following: provide proof of vaccination or negative result of a COVID-19 test taken within the previous 3 days. We don't do that anymore.
So I wonder if we should just say, it's not required, but we definitely want to promote safety. Just, to be honest, I don't want nobody coming in if they have COVID. But I can't tell them not to come. But we want to make sure that they know that the testing, I think some of this, we need the testing piece of it. I'm not for sure if we're going to continue. I know we can't require masks, of course, and the physical distancing. But I just wonder about, we're not asking proof of vaccination, but the testing, I'm not for sure if we're going to still offer. That might be something we want to have the staff talk about and then get back to us.
So whether or not we offer testing is. I guess we have that as an option on here.
Yeah. At least have it as an option till we know. I think the staff need to talk about.
Okay, so your proposal would be to wait. My proposal would be to strike it, but I don't mind if there's discussion to be had. I don't know, Amy or Savik, do you have opinions about this language on the agenda?
Well, I think we should strike it because honestly, a lot of people ask me, and I'm kind of surprised where it came from. Now I'm starting to realize they're like, do you need to do I have to bring my vaccination card to come to the board meeting? So I think it's causing more confusion among the public. So I don't see there any reason to keep it.
Dr. Cohn?
And I can add one thought. You're right. We're not requiring the 6 feet, the masks or the vaccinations, and testing will be available for the remainder of this till at least June 30th.
Yeah. So what we could say as a way of promoting health, if you feel that you are sick or anything like that, we recommend that you wear a mask, right? Something like that. And that testing is available if you have concerns with your health. I think that would help. I'm looking at the HR person, Todd. What do you think about that? I'm sorry, I caught you off guard. Thinking about like some of our staff, just saying that that the mask is recommended if you're sick, or like saying that testing is available if you need it. I don't think we can mandate anyone, but I do think we could say recommend it, considering we got RSV, pneumonia, flu, and COVID in the news, but we can't require people to do it. But I'd like some type of language that was.
Nice. I think it's really be a discussion among the board to decide what we want on our agenda.
Yeah, but I'm looking at Todd because I'm wondering if there's anything that we say for staff or anything. You don't? Okay. Okay. So if we could have some type of language of like just recommended.
Basically, my interest would be in having what's in here reflect the actual rules, whatever they actually are. Gary, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that it should be consistent with whatever the practice is across the district at different buildings and facilities. So if there's a recommendation, we can be consistent with that. I feel if you're having symptoms, you shouldn't be coming here at all. Not here. You think you have symptoms and you wear a mask, that doesn't sound right, because we tell our students, if you're feeling sick, you don't come to school, right? We tell the staff, if you're feeling sick, you don't go to work. So I think we should be consistent with that. You know, if you're feeling sick, stay home, participate remotely. And if you do come, you're
Testing
welcome
is
to,
available.
yeah, testing is available. You're welcome to wear a mask, but
You're not
don't have required, right?
Okay.
So whatever's consistent, I think makes the most sense.
Okay,
with district practice.
Dr. Chacon, so I can't,
I
just
know,
can't see you because of the screen. We'll have to figure this out.
I know.
Are you comfortable with, I think the board directions have whatever's on the agenda be consistent with district policy?
Yes, yes.
Does that work for you, everybody?
Yes, that
So
works for me.
Whatever is consistent with district policy so that what we're actually doing is what it says on the agenda for people who are going to attend.
Okay, I'll craft something and send it to Laura. Okay,
Thanks so much.
thank you.
To the chair, we do have one comment card for item 11.1.
Okay,
It is Abby Corman.
Hi, I'm speaking in regards to the wording that was on the agenda, which read that your group tonight was talking about the removal of the 6 feet distancing and masking for the board, not the removal of what's said on the consent agenda. So that's what my comment is about. Yesterday, the San Francisco Chronicle posted an article that says, quote, in the Bay Area, Santa Clara County became the first in the region to slip back into the high tier, for which the CDC recommends people wear a high quality mask or respirator in public spaces and counsels those who are high risk to consider avoiding non-essential indoor public activities. While I know we all want COVID to be done, it is not, and we are neighbors with Santa Clara County. When we talk specifically about wording for audience members at board meetings at school, we say, and all of our signs say, we strongly recommend instead of require masking. I believe we should do the same. It's what I think I just heard you all say you also recommend. But in regards to you all and what you do, it is flu season and cold season. Many students and staff that I know have been out sick, and this is because I believe most of us have become much more lax with our mask wearing. And it's that time of the year when it's common for community members to gather in large groups for holiday parties and family time during breaks. And as Trustee Koo named, you are all role models. Please model for our community and our students that we need to be vigilant and safe. We still need to wear our masks, and I believe you do still need to stay 6 feet apart or however you are right now. It models safety for our community, at least through 2022, through our winter breaks, and through this time of year where we have seen for 3 years now a pattern of people consistently becoming sick at this time. Please maintain your high level standards for safety through this time as role models for our community. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, the next item is 12.2, discussion of the board retreat. Do we have any comment cards about this item?
I have no comment cards.
Okay, so I asked to have this item on the agenda so we could all discuss our plans for our retreat, which I believe we currently have one on the calendar for February 1st. One thing we could consider is if we want to have an alternate date, but I think I'm inclined to stick with that date. And then I have a sort of an idea of how that retreat will run. And so I want to have this discussion on this agenda today, discuss the board retreat again at our next meeting, which is on January 18th, and then we'll have the board retreat on February 1st. So in the past, every board retreat has been, since I've been on the board, there's been a facilitator that has led much of the discussion. I would say the facilitator has tended to do more than 50% and perhaps more than 80% of the talking. And I'm interested in us getting to know each other and work together, so that my idea for retreat, which I kind of want to share and get feedback on, is that we will be the facilitator. So each person will facilitate an equal portion of the time of the retreat. We can discuss how long we want the retreat to be that we will be facilitating among ourselves. I have two things that I think we should have as the retreat topics. One is our governance handbook and everything related therein, and that's an attachment to this agenda overall. I mentioned it earlier in the meeting, having to do with the role of the president and how the president serves in the role as president, has to do with visiting school sites. Those are things that have been of some amount of issue with our collective body in the past, not with you two on it, but in the past, the visiting of school sites and notice periods and the way that the president performs the role of president. So those are two things that I want to talk about, but then anything else in there. So my goal for at the end of the meeting, we would have a subcommittee of two who will edit, and then we'll adopt a new governance handbook effective after that meeting, which hopefully all five of us agree is how we want to operate, and then we operate accordingly. Law would allow us to potentially do more or different things, but this would be how we all collectively agreed. So governance handbook broadly would be one area, and anything within the governance handbook that anybody. So between now and February 1, read it, see if there's something that you think should be different than it is, or what you like, how it is, and then we'll talk through the governance handbook and any issues therein. And so maybe in January, we might divvy up like who will facilitate what section or what we want to talk about within the governance handbook, so that sort of prepare an agenda for the February retreat and knowing who's going to facilitate which parts or lead what part of which discussion, with the goal being a revised governance handbook. And and then the second thing I was picturing for the retreat is each of us sharing, we all have a passion for public education. We all have perhaps lists of ideas of things we'd be interested in implementing or trying this. I've heard each of us express different ideas of different things. There's more ideas than we could possibly all do, that they could all be done at the same time, but it's kind of, I think it would be a good discussion, help us get to know each other, discussing our shared interests in public schools and public education. And then at the end, the goal would be if there's any priorities for us as a governance team that we want to put a special emphasis on for, say, through the end of the academic year.
Yeah.
So that was my idea. So that was my idea overall for the retreat with those two topics. We could add topics. If you don't like those ideas, we could remove them, but I just want to kind of share that was my thought and get thoughts. Carrie, go ahead.
This is discussion. I do worry. I mean, I like your idea, but I worry about not having a facilitator and, taking the feedback from the community and continuing the work. So what I wanted to do this year one topic is this idea of allyship, right? Really digging deep into that. And as part of the healing and modeling, I think that's something we can't teach ourselves, right? And we, as part of every action we do, I think this year, we have to model healing and we have to model learning. And I know there's a lot of pain right now in the community. And, people are mad at us. We can't speak completely, and actions speak louder than words. We've been told that several times. So I don't know if everybody agrees, but I think our retreats weren't as effective as they could have been this last year, from just speaking for myself, right? I don't know if they worked for everybody. But I think that there's stuff we can't teach ourselves. And so every opportunity we have to show that we're going to heal and that we're going to continue to learn.
Yeah, I agree with you. First of all, Rich, I like the idea of taking a portion. I do think it needs to be time bound, that we get through the handbook quickly. I'm just saying, because it takes us a long time to have certain conversation and then we don't finish. So if we could time bound it and do pre-work and send it to each other, that way we have a timely conversation, that would be helpful. And I would be willing to work on the handbook with somebody. So I'll just put that out there for myself. This other piece that, I'm going to say today was tough for me. So I'll save my comments for later. And it's been tough to sit here, to be in this place 2 times. So what I am thinking is that we do need some level of facilitate, even if the person is just sitting in the room, to remind us of our why as a governance board. I personally think there's this huge piece of healing around racial justice, racial trauma that people have been talking about. And I don't think it's just what this board has done. I think it's the things that this district has done over the years that has culminated into what people are talking about right now. The only presenter that I think resonated with a lot of us was Travis Bristol. I'm just going to put that name out there. I think he just met us where we were, maybe not everybody else, but I've been through a lot of DEI trainings and I actually thought we had a good year. I just think some of us was really ready to engage and some of us were like, hey, this is new. You know, there's all different places in which we come from when we have to start dealing with equity, because it's looking at the ugliness. It's looking at the ugliness and leaning in, saying it's okay to be ugly, and I'm going to lean in anyway. And so I think we are at different places of how we deal with that ugliness, and the authenticity of being able to look at ourselves in that process so that we can transform the system, not tear it up and blow it up, but to transform the system so it works for everybody. So when I think about that, I am thinking about this whole piece of healing. Allyship, I'm not for sure, Carrie. I have to kind of think about that. It's too quick for me. But I do think there is some type of healing that needs to happen. And I know it sounds a little hokey. It doesn't feel like it's business, but if we don't deal with the healing, just like we didn't deal with COVID, really, nobody wanted to really talk about it and what it did to us and the 4 big things that happened during those times, we just moved on. And I don't think we really ever healed from that, based off what I heard from parents saying, please don't talk about that again. My stomach is turning because you're talking about Wednesdays, like all these kinds of things. That means we needed to talk about the trauma. So I am with Carrie in this way that we do need the healing. What that looks like, I don't know. Travis is the first thing that comes to mind. When I think of the handbook, I think of Angelina, because there were times she just would say stuff that I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, we walked away. I know I took notes and was like, I'm going to bring it up when we do our handbook, right? Whether or not we'll do it, that's a different story. But there is this piece of healing that needs to start first. We can't get to business unless we deal with the elephant in the room. And we may not be able to talk about in closed session, which is a shame, right? It is a shame. As a community person, I'm like, right? But there are things that we cannot talk about. And we still need to stand flat-footed and look our people in the community and say, we're going to do the healing. And I think it's extremely important to have a half day that's just about that, because I don't think the handbook will take that long, to be honest. But I do believe this healing will. It's going to take us a while.
I like how you said that. I mean, because we can't talk about everything, and people want us to talk about it. I mean, I think, again, showing the action, that's what you're saying, right? Showing the action,
but not
being
action
humble
just
about
for them, but also
the
action for us. I'm hurt, right? I'm sad. I'm grieving. And I'm not looking at the audience. I'm looking at us. I'm sitting here crying because I'm hurt. It's grief. It's grief. So I thank you for bringing up the allyship. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. We can talk about that offline. So I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying healing.
Amy or Sophic, do you want to share anything?
I think I really like Rich's idea. I really, do agree that I think it'd be better for the board to do a lot of the talking, but I kind of do see also the thing in having a facilitator to have some of those discussions. So, I think we should talk to a couple facilitators first and figure out which one's the best fit for the board. But yeah, I'm fine with whatever you guys think is best, but I am excited, to maybe get to know each other more through presenting some of our own ideas for things that could improve in this district.
Yeah. I mean, I do want to understand, like, from a past facilitator standpoint, if they were doing too much of the talking and us not enough, how much guidance or framework did we align on ahead of time, right? So if we are searching for a facilitator, we should say, hey, we want the majority of the time the board is doing the talking and you're just asking the questions and taking the notes, because sometimes it's hard to speak and try and capture notes at the same time. And if the facilitator could actually be doing some of that and helping us capture thoughts or provide some structure on how to capture our thoughts. My interest as a new board member is really getting a sense of the team of coming out of that retreat. We should feel like we're more connected as a team. And you can't really do that just through a governance handbook review. And you can't, you get a little sense of what people's interests are through putting up our ideas for education, but the way you really connect with people is through emotions. And I think having a facilitator go through that healing process, I'm in a like emotional whirlwind right now, but that's how people connect, is through emotions, and we need to share what's really on our mind and connect together as people, and then we'll be stronger as a team. So that's my interest.
Amy, remember when you talked, it really stuck with me when you talked about reflective listening, so you're not trying to talk over and you're really listening and then responding with feelings. Did you have a person that you said you did some training in that area? Do you know of a facilitator? If that's what others would have interest in.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily the right thing for healing. That's more how to communicate with people without going over the net, right? And that way there's more respectful communication. I don't know that's not really the same thing as facilitating a healing process. So we really need to do that research on who the right facilitator could be.
I think that's why I also think, for me, we have 3 people who've been here before. And to be honest, if I'm going to be frank and transparent, when Rich and I came in, Rich doesn't have to agree, of course. It was a different board, and there was disagreements, right? And different perspectives. And it was hard. I don't know about you, Rich. It's my first time being on the board. It was hard being on the board. Not in a difficult way, like not liking people, that kind of stuff, but just getting on the same page. And I think a lot of that had to do with processing what had happened before. And that's hard to do in public. So I wouldn't want to hash out all of that. But I do think we can talk about the underbelly, the feeling, the things that are, when you have an iceberg, there's things that are under the iceberg: anger, frustration, communication, irritants, celebrations, those kinds of things that are under the iceberg, under that level that no one else can see. And I'm not trying to have a big therapy session, but I'm just saying, just to name some of those things would be helpful. I do think, based off what I'm hearing today from our audience of how they see us, right? It's not necessarily how I see myself, but how they see us, which is a strong indication of a broken trust, that we need to talk about some level of healing, racial healing in our community, because they're broken. They're broken because of us, right? And I own that. And I don't know how to get to that. I know I need to talk to you all privately, some ideas that I have had that we could talk about some of this stuff in a different way. I have to think through it a little bit more.
Maybe I can make a suggestion that maybe if the rest of the board agrees, that 2 of us be a subcommittee to work on the retreat and bring back our ideas.
You like working with me, don't you? It's just because I'm vice president, isn't it? No, seriously, I look forward to working with you on this.
Does that work for the rest of you? If we come up with some ideas and present them?
Yes, I trust you guys to come up with something
But
that we will all love.
Maybe we align on desired outcomes from our.
Yes,
retreat,
I love that.
right? Align on desired outcomes, and then you guys can come up with ideas and things like that.
Yeah, we'll find a way to get,
Do we want to do the desired outcomes now? That way, when we meet
Yeah,
as
I
two
think that makes
people.
sense.
And
as a
then can I
subgroup.
define my allyship idea to you if you have time in the
Yes.
next week or so?
So I love this idea of connecting with each other because we say the same thing for our students. Our students don't, when we ask the children, are you well? Actually, are they connected? Do they have relationships, right? So maybe that we walk out of this better understanding each other's style for appreciation and for like working out, someone help me with a SMART goal. I mean, we're adding people in IEP. Y'all know the SMART goals. I'm looking at Bonnie Hansen. So what's a SMART goal that we can have? I like the connection piece.
well, let's find a way to get feedback that doesn't violate the Brown Act, and then we'll work on some ideas
Okay.
and bring it back at the January meeting. Or we may book something depending on,
Okay. Cool beans.
okay.
Yeah, and I think like the desired outcome of connectedness, I don't know if we want to even take that a step further and identify like one action we could do to start the healing process with the community. Maybe that's like a goal we could have. So we heal amongst ourselves, build that connection, and then what's one thing we could do to start the process with the community? And maybe that's the desired outcome from our retreat.
Okay, anybody else? We're good? Okay, so the next item is our only action of the night, approval of the first interim financial report for fiscal year 2022, 2023.
Woohoo. It's the budget.
The budget. I must apologize in advance to trustee Nori and trustee Koo. I'm not very energetic right now, so hopefully the numbers won't be boring like people usually say, but they are. So, good evening. Tonight I am here to present to you first interim for the 22-23 school year. In accordance with Ed Code, school districts are required to prepare and submit several financial interim reports and financial reports throughout each fiscal year to the governing body. So along with the two interim financial reports, we also have a lot of different reports that cross over fiscal years. Okay, let's go. So this is a timeline that I often share while I'm presenting. So you can kind of see how we are operating in multiple fiscal years at one time. The only time we are actually operating in one singleton year is usually during second interim. So currently we are in December. I am presenting the first interim budget. The audit report was just complete and we are working through that draft, and the auditors will be presenting that to the board in January. So there are 3 certifications for interim reports. There's the positive certification, which indicates that the district will be able to meet our financial obligations for the current fiscal year, and then the 2 subsequent years. And there is a qualified certification, which indicates that we will meet it for the current year, but maybe not in one of the 2 out years. And then a negative certification indicates that we will not be able to meet our financial obligations in any of the 3 years. So I am pleased to offer a positive certification for the 22-23 fiscal year for first interim. So I wanted to kind of bring it back to a high level. These reports can often be long. If you look at the SACS reports, they're often several hundred pages. So I wanted to bring in a first interim at a glance. So it kind of lifts the large cost centers and highlights where we are at with our projections for the current year. So our projected revenues overall are about $233 million. Projected expenses, 245. So obviously, when we look at those two items, we do see some deficit. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Fund balance is projected at just slightly over 30 million. Our projected revenues from LCFF sources, which are our property taxes, are just above 180 million. Federal 11, projected revenues from state and local, which is kind of like a catch-all, is about 41. And then we have some expenses down here, salaries and benefits for both classified, certificated and management is roughly 188 million. 54 million for all other expenses. And then some transfers out, we'll also talk about that, is at 3.2 million. So when we look at our overall revenues by source, I have offered here so that we can have a comparison, the 21-22 actuals that were presented to the board in September, what we project to be our revenues in 22-23. There's a slight typo on here for that first out year. It should be 23-24, and then 24-25. So with revenues, we usually do 5% over prior year. We find that's conservative enough. We have been steadily, unfortunately, getting closer to coming in at that 5% over prior year for property taxes. And that 5% is only on secured. So there's several different types of property taxes that we receive revenue on, but the 5% that we always talk about with the tracker is related specifically to the secured amount. So you can see from this chart that the majority of our revenue comes from property taxes. So another way to look at it, if you're a visual person, again, 77% of our overall revenue in the general fund, which is Fund 01, 77% is our property taxes. So when we talk about property taxes, it's roughly 237 assessments each year. Again, as I stated, at budget adoption, we budget 5% over prior year. And then we receive our first notification, usually October, November, which we're able to capture in first interim. And so right now, our current letter, we're projected to be at 5.26%. Of that 5%. So we're slightly higher. I do expect it to grow. We do not get that final notification until June. So we watch a tracker throughout the year. Chances are we'll probably finish slightly above 6. We did have a higher secured property tax. Obviously, it came in higher than that 5% at first interim, and then our RDA revenue represents about a $10 million increase from budget adoption. I know we think of budget adoption as June, but although that's when budget adoption occurs, the actual numbers happen in April and May. So it's actually a significant time period from April and May to December when we are presenting on first interim. So when we look at other revenues, federal revenue sources increased about 2.5 million due to additional carryover being able to be booked from COVID relief funds, learning losses we've mentioned before, and the remaining amount recognizes an addition in IDEA funds and Title III and Title IV carryover. Since we are talking about the titles, I did get notification a few weeks ago of a decrease in our funding for Title I, roughly $300,000. We are still investigating why we have that. It's very easy to claim that that number is because of universal feeding, because the formulas are tied to free and reduced applications, but I'm not seeing that trend carry over to other districts. And so we're making sure that there's not an error in our funding calculations. For other state revenue sources, we have again an increase of 11.8. This is 2 significant revisions to the governor's proposed budget, 5.3 million and 3.16 million for the arts and music and learning recovery block grant. Carryover of CTE and other one-time funding represent the remaining 3 million. In the multi-year projection, the passage of Prop 28 that just happened in November is not reflected in our out years at this time. Other
or the transportation money is not in there. We have to provide the board a transportation plan, and then we'll try to add that in at second interim if timing permits. Those are for the out years. For local revenue sources, this is our leases and rentals. We had adopted budget of 2.3 million. We had site carryover, first interim, that's when those tend to be booked. And a donation from some of our partners. Again, Kathy Kwan, thank you so much. County of San Mateo, and a new grant to support our middle college program represent an increase of 741,000. Contributions to restricted programs, that's our special education funds, have increased by approximately 2.1 million from adopted budget. An increase that is due to special education settlements, NPS placements, non-public school placements represent the majority of that increase. So when we look at expenses, we can see that the majority of our expenses occur in salaries and benefits. So that's going to be your blue and your orange, account for most of our benefits. I'm sorry, our expenses. And then we have our supplies and then other services and other operating costs. Again, if you look at the circle, you would look at the light blue, the orange, and the gray for total amount of expenses related to salaries and health and benefits. So certificated salaries increased 3.9 million from adopted budget. This increase represents various positions funded really with one-time dollars to address the learning loss. So these are all the plans that you approved last year with these student-facing positions, hiring them, getting them in place. That's why we start to see those increases. It's important to also remember that when I'm presenting the budget, there are certain regulations that I have to present around, right? So some funds require that you book a budget with an expense with the revenue. So you'll see in the multi-year projection, as in the out years, it looks like, oh, well, what are you doing with all these positions? You're spending less. And so when we get closer to budget season, those would roll over into the out years. Classified salaries have increased 1.5 million from adopted budget. Substitute costs are in there. And then again, we are increasing the supports and resources for summer school. Employee benefits increased 4.1 million. This increase is correlated to the additional staffing. Benefits aren't just health and benefits, right? That's also our STIRS and PERS. So that's a percentage of salaries is how that. So if your salaries go up, your benefits are going to go up. Books and supplies increased just about 9 million. Again, this is the arts and music grant. So we see that grant money come in, and one of the requirements so we don't get what's called a technical review check is we have to insert an expense, even though we don't have currently a plan to spend those dollars at this time. So we'll be figuring that out close to second interim as well. Carryover funds were calculated, and they're also inserted in the report. Services and other operating expenditures are up just under 8 million. Again, this increase is due to the Learning Recovery Grant, carryover funding, and other one-time related expenses. Capital outlay is up about 78,000. This was some additional equipment that was purchased for the Woodside Engineering Program. We will evaluate the capital outlay purchases at second interim. Oftentimes they could be moved to other funds, and so that would occur during estimated actuals at year end. So we do have other funds outside of the general fund. Fund 08 is the Student Activity Special Revenue Fund. This is a fairly new fund. It's required for us to report. It's just ending balances. Fund 09 is our charter school. So that's EPAA. They do sit within our funds. We do monitor their finances. And their revenues and expenditures are projected at just over $7 million. I would like to note at this time, there is
I would call a fairly significant transfer into Fund 09. And so the business staff will be working with EPAA staff to make sure that we are spending down federal monies, and so that we can reduce that contribution from the general fund. Fund 11 is adult ed, pretty healthy. Revenues are projected at 2.35 million. Expenditures just under 3. They'll be using their beginning fund balance for anything that's different. Fund 13 is our food service fund. They did have a prior year carryover. They are currently projected to have a contribution as well, but we did finish audited actuals for the first time in the green and not in the red in food service. So I'm excited to see how those numbers change throughout the year. As a district, we do still operate Fund 14, which is our deferred maintenance fund. Revenues are projected at 840,000, and expenditures just under 3 million. Again, that fund has a healthy reserve, and so we spend that down. You're going to see a little bit of a slowdown to this fund as we get going with Measure W in the future. Fund 21, zero balance. That's what Mr. Violet had presented on earlier. This is where the activity for Measure W will take place. Fund 25, currently revenue is projected at 2.55. This is developer fees. So when we get that money from Meta, it will go into Fund 25. Fund 35 is our state matching funds. That's where the deposits from all the qualifiers for some of our construction projects for the state have gone. Currently revenue is projected at 376,000, just really from interest, and expenditures at 2.14. This is primarily the fund that I'm using to pay for the air conditioning currently. And I did just receive notification that we received partial funding for the Woodside Solar Project, and that our TIDE application was also approved, which is fabulous. So I don't have the amounts of what we may be getting as a reimbursement, but that is also good news for us. Fund 40 is a special reserve capital outlay. Revenue, again, is generated from interest, expenses at 2 million, healthy reserve. We use this for like copiers, forklifts, carts, those types of smaller capital purchases. Fund 71 is our pass-through account for retiree benefits. And then if we go down to the multi-year projection, also known as the MYP, you can see the total revenues and the expenses. It's important to remember that you're going to see deficit spending, those numbers that are negative throughout there. You're going to see that anytime your revenues are less than your expenses. So, and it's revenues that come in that year. So unfortunately, it doesn't take into account carryover. So your carryover is actually sitting at that ending fund balance. So that's where we're going to see that. But for current year, for the new board members, this board really focuses on trying to meet at least an 8% reserve. Right now projected for 22-23, it's 8.66. For 23-24, it's 9.5. And for 24-25, it's just shy, it's 11.49. So just shy of 11.5%. And then we can also see the difference. I really like to, since I've been at the district, I really try to focus on how tight our projections are. It can be a little difficult to do that on the revenue side, especially in a basic aid district. And we just kind of watch for trends. We know where our hotspots are in special ed, and then also in some of our transfers out. That would be the food service and also that contribution to Fund 09. Now, what is not shown in here, but it's shown on the SACS form, and it was also shown at year-end close, is I have $6 million set away, which Edith made sure to talk to me about. She didn't want me to forget about that $6 million. So that $6 million is because we have added a lot of positions with one-time funding. we know we are not getting rid of those positions when we no longer have one-time money. These are student-facing positions. These are mental health-facing positions, and we are continuing to add resources for our students. Now, right now, there seems to be an ongoing one-time money, right? But so we're trying to see like how quickly that one-time money is going to end. You know, we saw so much one-time money for several years throughout the state, and then it went away. We said it wasn't coming back, and now it's coming back. And so we just need to be mindful. The general fund currently, if we did not set aside money, would not be able to support the positions that we have added if we do not identify revenue. So that is important to remember. You will hear more about that in the spring. And then when we,
because you're turning the pages, where were you looking at? It was flipping while you were talking.
oh,
Sorry.
oh, I was just looking right here.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I was like, where is she
Was
flipping?
I scrolling while I was talking?
Okay, yes.
Sorry.
So I'm like, where is she talking? You said positions and then you.
Yeah,
flipped
so
it.
I was talking in general.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I was talking in general. I was talking about that 6 million that I don't have identified on here. I was looking at Greg because I know it's going to come up at the table. So I was multitasking.
Okay.
And
Can you
now,
slow that down? Where's the 6 million?
now
Where's
he's
the?
driving. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And so then when we look at enrollment, you know, like projections, sometimes it's like throwing a dart in the air, but you know, I'm pretty proud of our enrollment projections, I must say. So thank you, staff, who gives me these numbers. So you can see where we were at budget adoption, total 8887, and at first interim we're at 8906. So we're pretty close. But you can see the differences. Menlo Atherton has dropped, and Carlmont has dropped slightly. I know it doesn't always feel that way. I know Carlmont is bursting at the seams. Woodside has a little bit of room. And so I still don't see this drastic mass exodus that we've been hearing since COVID. Just not seeing that quite yet. We still see pretty stable numbers through Carlmont through the next few years. We do know that Redwood City Elementary District is declining, so that will continue to affect Sequoia. Woodside will probably, it could potentially get a tad bit smaller, but it should stay status quo from there. And so we're still working on a deeper dive into our enrollment projections. So what's next? In January, the governor will release kind of like an intro budget for next year. Bonnie and staff is working on the local control accountability plans. Again, I remind you that the plans that you approve, whether that be the Ed Effectiveness Grant, all of the other COVID monies, the local control accountability plans, those are the plans that drive the budget. So when I present the numbers to you, it's numbers, it's regulatory, but you have approved these expenses through the plans, through your goals. And so that is why it's ever most important for us, for staff, to have clear idea of what the goals are so we can develop initiatives and create a budget around to continue to move that needle. So any questions?
Sorry, could you repeat what you were talking about? I think after the $6 million, you were talking about how our current budget without extra one-time funds wouldn't support the extra staff we've hired. Is that what I
Correct.
understood?
Mm-hmm.
And those one-time funds aren't going to continue?
It's hard to say. So it is not a good business practice to create ongoing expenses with one-time dollars. However, these one-time dollars seem to be ongoing for right now because of COVID. This Art and Blocks grant, we're still trying to understand that a little bit more because it talks about arts and it talks about art, but yet you can use it on anything. But then there's a maintenance of effort that a certain percentage of it has to be used within the arts programs. And so there is still some flexibility with that. And what I'm hearing is that we will still be receiving one-time money, at least for a couple more years. The amount, I'm unsure of.
Where is it on the line item? I'm sure you flipped through it. It's a little late tonight. And you flipped so fast, I could not figure out the line where it was the one-time funding. Or where is that just a comment? I was still confused. I'm
So
sorry.
there is one-time money that is loaded into these numbers here.
All the
It-
numbers.
Yeah, it's important. So what will happen as we get closer to the negotiation season, and I'm going to try to do it. Christine Gong, who I'm so excited about, she is our new controller. She starts tomorrow. So I am extremely excited about that. When she gets settled, her laundry list of things to do are already growing. We need to make sure that we're identifying any one-time funding that's sitting in that ending fund balance and pull that out because it's going to inflate the reserves.
Looks like that's, do you have a question, Amy? See your-
No, and she had proactively answered the question about the 6 million. So my ears kind of perked up because I was going to wonder, how are we paying for the one-time funded positions?
Looks like you've answered all of our questions. Thank you very much. Are there any public comment on this item? Okay. Thank you. So I need a motion to approve the first interim financial report for fiscal year 2022-2023.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
I
That-
Yeah, thank.
Okay, we have 18 minutes until 10 o'clock. We now have Board of Trustees comments, committee report, and agenda setting. Okay, Carrie, I see you. Go ahead, Carrie.
It's been going that way all night. First of all, I wanted to let you know, I sort of started a tradition several years ago because Redwood didn't have a PTA and they didn't have really a holiday event. And so I started like a cookie thing in the morning. It's too early for cookies. I think it's 7:30 in the morning on the 21st. And I'll double check the time, but I would love all trustees to maybe stop by. It's really fun to,
What's the date?
Pardon me? Is that right? The 21st? Is that what's the last day of school? The 21st? That would be yeah. So it's the 21st. I think it's really early, like 7:30, but so I can get the time to you guys, but I would love for you to come. And then the other thing I wanted to say, I know there's no words, because people are hurt, people are angry, and people are confused. I have what we said earlier, we're not going to be able to answer all questions. But I have offered to meet with people who are angry, and I know that they probably need more time. So I think I want to make some comments to my colleagues rather than the community, because I know people are upset, and I am committed to healing. But to my colleagues, I want to say something to you. Although we look bad to many people, I'm truly excited about this group up here. What I've seen with this group of people, I have seen in the last week, and I know that they have lost sleep, some have lost weight, and some have lost friends. What I've seen anger that's turned to compassion and forgiveness. I've seen grief and tears. I've seen courage like I've never seen before. I've seen kindness. I've seen ideas on moving forward. I've seen wisdom beyond years. I'm not bragging about me at all. I'm bragging about you. And you know how I don't like it when sometimes people up here brag about the board. I'm not talking about myself, but I want to brag about you. This might not be the right thing. This might sound terrible. I know when there's anger, but I want you to know that I admire you. And I want to say that publicly. I admire you. It's not for something that was done. It's because I saw your character, each of you. And I just want to say that. And again, I hope it might not, it's so hard to talk right now, and it might hit, so that might hit somebody in the wrong way. If it looks like we don't care and we don't feel, that is not true. This week has been filled with sorrow and pain. So I hope that comes across okay. Thanks.
Shawnice?
All right. Welcome to your first week and a half of Sequoia Union High School District. We're happy to have you on board. It's been a whirlwind. I asked my husband to bring cards. He said, I don't have time. I've just been all over the place. And so you guys didn't get a warm welcome from me. And so I just want to say thank you for being on board. I know some people say you're too young. Let's put it out there, you're 19, but that's all right. You're smart, you're inquisitive. And I pray and hope that you listen with your ears and be slow to speak and quick to hear. Amy, I'm very happy you're on board. Just your wisdom here has just shown me, you know, I'm always about learning from others, and I like to sit at people's feet, as our elders would say. And I think there's some things that I could sit at your feet and just learn. And so I'm happy that you're here. I'm happy that you brought your boys and your social worker husband. Woo, woo,
He's
social
an added benefit.
social workers in the house. So joking aside, I'm happy that you're here. I was proud about the board that I was on before, but we opened the doors for new people. Rich, I'm looking forward to working with you already. And Carrie, we have a lot to talk about, but I'm looking forward to being with you. So with that said, I want to go into what I've been feeling, if I'm going to be transparent. And I'm going to try not to cry, y'all. I am hurt. And there's nothing I can talk about. The emails, the texts, the accusations, the empathy, the sympathy, all of those pieces. It has been extremely, extremely difficult. And I know I have something that I wanted to read, but we know that we must learn from the endurance of everything so that we'll be completely mature and never lacking anything. So this is a time to face and to do things with endurance so that we may lack nothing. And I think it's time for our district to have endurance and to face the things that have been hurtful to communities, not just from this last week, but from years, things that are beyond us sitting here, of decisions, actions, practices, procedures. That is, it's not all about BIPOC, but BIPOC is feeling it right now. But there's children with special needs. There's children who've done well in school, but have mental health issues, and gone off to Ivy League schools and still struggling with their mental health, and trying to recognize that in a system that doesn't always embrace how that shows up at school. So with that said, I went to the EDC on 12/8. It was a great meeting. I wish Taja was here and Pablo. And they are working really hard at each and every site to think about how to elevate the work, not for themselves, it's not adult work, it's actually for kids. And so the kids feel comfortable being where they are. And I want them still to feel the love and support. And I'm thinking about how to support that. I'm very concerned that they're holding themselves, and we need to be holding them. And when I say that, is providing that support of an outside person who can just hold the space, because they're coordinating and they're holding people's grief. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to share. The other thing that I wanted to share is that the MA forum went really well. I was very excited that it was officers from across the different cities that feed to the school. I think they did an excellent job. And I'm very happy about Heather Starnes' leadership at Live in Peace and wanting to schedule something. I don't have the date right on the top of my head, but our community in East Palo Alto and Belhaven needs to have it at a different place with people who have street cred. To pull it together and to be able to begin to think about how do we help keep our schools safe as well. But it has to be in a different way because our parents weren't all in the room. Although Lily Quiones had a lot of families who from the Welcome Center. I'm looking at Bonnie saying thank you for that. I think that's an improvement from 2 years ago. We're starting to get parents out in spaces where other parents are. I think that's important. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, to give it what I learned at CSBA conference, was one of the things that they talked about in the president's workshop. I'm not telling you what to do, President Jen. But one of the things that they talked about was like, how do you bring the student voice to the table? What does it physically look like? I'm a facilitator. Actual space and setting things up tells us whether or not we're welcome at the table. This is kind of awkward to have this big, long table and I got to scoot over to see you and I got to look this way. Yeah, I'm okay where I am. I like sitting at the spot where I can see people coming in and out. But what they said that was interesting is that you put the students at the dais in the middle and the adults are around them. And so there's something about having Samantha and I have to see the spelling of the name. I'm so sorry, trustee. I know how Swaminatha. Thank you. I want to pronounce your name correctly because your name's important. That we put them in the middle. And so I would like for us to think about that, and I will bring it up again and ask that it's on the agenda to think about how to set up our space so that we put the students in the middle. So it reminds us of who we're here for. And I've done that for IEPs. I put pictures on my desk, say, it's not a piece of paper, it's a person. And I think that's the same thing that I walked away with. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is really getting our board, and I heard it through our group, that we really do as a board need an equity coach to make sure our stuff is taken care of. So it doesn't get in the way of seeing things, that we're seeing things with multiple perspectives, because I have my blind spots too, but Amy has hers, but together those blind spots are covered. And so I do think the connection piece, but I also think that equity coach. And then the last thing, Ms. Sledge, one of my favorite people in the world, because she's just so encouraging. As a person whose daughter looked up to her because she wore gym shoes and had pretty hair, and she kind of showed up and she's excited. And when my daughter was down, she would remind her of who she was and gave encouragement out the wazoo that will lift my daughter's spirit. So when she said, we get up in the face of adversity, we get up. I am asking the community to join me in getting up in adversity. Sometimes we get tired of resilience, and yet we still need to get up because this board really does care. It doesn't feel like it. It's not clear. It's hurtful. And yet we can get up and we can face another day for 9,000 kids of all different backgrounds, socioeconomics, different homes, with different motivations, are worth it. And so I commit to being on this board in the face of adversity. And I thank you, Adrian, for reminding us to face that adversity. Thank you.
I would just like to quickly thank, my three board colleagues for really welcoming me onto this board ever since, the results of the election were clear, really extending out their arms and asking me if there was anything I needed. And honestly, everyone else in the district, to all the cabinet staff and any other employees, even all the teachers who reached out to congratulate me, I'd really like to thank them for making me feel welcome coming back to the district. It meant a lot. And I like to echo what Shawnice and Carrie said, that I know that every single board member here and every single person in this district really does everything that we do because we think it's what's best for our students, and that's all our students. So I'd like to thank everyone just for that. And, I'm excited to, like I said before, I'm excited to start these 4 years. I'd also like to echo what Shawnice said. It was really great to go to MA Candidates Forum. I really like to thank my colleague on the Las Lomitas board and PTA president, Paige Winikoff, for putting it together. I think I kind of saw how she started it from almost nothing to getting so many parents to come and getting so many speakers. And it was really cool. And I'm really grateful for her and other parents who helped put it together. It was really fun to be at.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the current board members as well as past board members for really meeting with me since the election and giving me the lowdown on things that are going on with the district. And I did have a chance to be in San Diego for not just the AEC, but also the CSBA Board of Directors meeting and Delegate Assembly meeting, and had a chance to really connect with Trustee Stevenson as well as Dr. Williams while we were down there. I am stepping down from the CSBA Board of Directors. So my 2-year term as the Director at Large API is over. So that was a little bit bittersweet, but I've built a lot of connections, and hopefully that is useful as, we navigate in the coming year. Because I was really focused and working closely with other director at large. There's one for Hispanic, African American, American Indian, and also County Board of Education, where their focus is more on the special populations such as special ed. And actually, we organized a workshop that was pretty well received at the AAC called Mental Health Supporting Diverse Populations. So I'll send the presentations to you. And the other group that I'm closely involved with is the API School Board Members Association, and they also organized a very well-received workshop called Anti-Asian Hate to Solidarity, How Schools Can Combat Racial Bullying Through Ethnic Studies. So I am really excited that Sequoia has ethnic studies way ahead of the requirement from the state in 9th grade, because it is a good time to build those connections as freshmen and to understand and appreciate cultures and perspectives different from their own, and being able to do that analysis. But that workshop was very, very interesting, going from statistics to how a strategic plan or student voice is important to have the strategic plan behind you so that when the road gets difficult, you have something to back you up, because different stakeholders all contribute to that strategic plan. So even if there are naysayers or difficult moments, you say, no, everyone's aligned on this strategic plan. So it was very informative, and I'll forward that information to you as well. But to conclude, I am stepping down from all the CSBA stuff, but I am staying on the board of the API School Board Members Association. And in order to do that, I either need to be an individual member of that association, or the district could be a member. So I'd like to encourage us to be a district member, because once you become a member, then you get notices for different workshops, all related to either cross-cultural understanding of the API community and student staff needs, school board needs. And even beyond that, there's 2 other organizations. One is CLSBA, the California Latino School Board Association, as well as CABSI, California Association of Black school board members and educators, I think is the acronym. So that's something to consider. Obviously, if we join multiple organizations, we probably need to identify one or two people who are going to be really active in them, because we probably can't attend everything. But if we split up and maybe each choose an organization to be involved with and report back to the rest of the board, that'll help with some of the understanding of different perspectives. So.
Okay, thank you. It's 10 o'clock. I'm gonna make it under a minute. Say just that for future agenda setting, we typically do a rotation where the board president meets with one other person for each meeting. Given that we are now the February 1st meeting, if Suffolk is the January 18th meeting, because we usually go in alphabetical order, so it'd be D, E, and then Amy, you'll be the first meeting after the retreat. So it'd be January 18, February 1, whatever the next meeting is, and then you'd be the one after that, since you and I planned this one. And we're going to finish at 10. Do you have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved. Oh.
Sure, go ahead.
I wanted to thank Laura. Thank you for all you do for us. She works really, really hard to take care of the board. And so you guys might not know, you bought her a little thank you gift. The board bought her that dog. So she got a gift from the old board and the new board. So anyway, thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, board.
Stopper, make a motion to adjourn. So there's a second.
I second.
Amy seconds. All in favor of adjourning?
All right.
Okay, adjourn.